Grand Park Westfield back for Colts camp with today a joint practice with the Packers of Green Bay paying a visit. And we shall see what that means. Everything's starting to in the training camp. What do they call this? The touchdown town, the Peyton Manning Children's Hospital fan zone, the kids zone. I'm not sure exactly what they call it, but they're just now, they got the staff out here putting up the bouncy houses and the field goal kicking, and you can get timed in the 100-meter dash, which I think, Eddie, if we had a 100-meter dash race, who would win between the two of us?
Probably you.
I don't know, man. I mean, you got a 20-year advantage on me here, 25-year advantage, right?
Well, I think that's more of the lack of speed that I possess than it is the age there.
Are you not – when you played baseball, were you not a quick down-the-line guy?
No.
Okay. Is that because of the insulation?
I'm just slow.
Okay,
just slow.
Fair enough. Thank you, by the way, to Greg Rakestraw for yesterday filling in out at the Indiana State Fair. I know it was a gorgeous day and a good day for harness racing, and we are back at it here. I am back after yesterday's White Sox game for the Colts Packers. There's a lot going on today because not just do you have this situation with the Colts in the joint practice with the Green Bay Packers, but also the NBA schedule release is today. That will be later this afternoon, I believe, and I'll have to check. I believe that is tentatively scheduled for 2 p.m. But they also, a lot of times the NBA – now the NBA has not really caught on, I don't think, Eddie, to the NFL. And I know there's more games, so it's tougher. But it doesn't seem like the NBA teams have caught on to the trend of, like, doing the super creative, trying to outsmart everybody and be super funny and then get in trouble like the Colts did. Release things, right? They just kind of announce it. Is that right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's harder to do when you have, 82 games on your schedule.
That's
I guess,
what I mean, yeah.
I mean, I guess you could do, like, by team, but you play every team in the NBA, so it could get pretty exhausting.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, I guess your key dates maybe? What would you say are the key dates? I look at it, if I look at the Pacers' upcoming schedule this year, the games that I think are of note, and you are correct in the fact that there are 82, there's 41 home games. They play, teams from the Eastern Conference multiple times at home. But I think that the games that jump out, obviously Oklahoma City, and we know now that that is going to be the home opener, and that game is going to be nationally televised. But outside of that, I think there'd be a lot of attention for the first time that they host Milwaukee for the obvious of Miles Turner and that storyline and just kind of the rivalry and the bad blood between those teams. Maybe to an extent the first time they go to Milwaukee or just in general the first time they face Milwaukee. Then I think the first time maybe they play Cleveland or New York because of the playoffs and just kind of the rivalry of the playoffs in the last 2 years, in the last year. Outside of that, Eddie, is there any that jumps out at you that you think is like a marquee matchup that they're looking forward to?
The Knicks, would that be one?
That's why I said New York, Cleveland, and New York. I mean, the three Milwaukee is the big one because of the Miles Turner factor. But outside of that, and then you get the obvious, again, storyline that it hurts. I keep saying obvious, I realize. But I just keep forgetting that Tyrese Halliburton is not going to be there. And I don't mean to start the day on a gorgeous sunny day here from Grand Park in Westfield on a sour note. But, yesterday I was scrolling through social media and there was a video of Tyrese Halliburton bringing the ball up the floor against the Clippers in a game for Indiana. But watching it and then immediately getting excited for it and then thinking, oh, wait, you just forget that he is not going to be there this coming season. But that's not to say that there's not anticipation. There's not to be some excitement about what does, are they going to have, we know no Christmas game, but when I was a kid, it was always a tradition. The Pacers would have a home game on Thanksgiving night. That was always pretty cool. There are some things to look forward to, and we will keep an eye on it as the schedule releases later today. And then we can get into the fever as well. But let's begin with what we look for here later today for this joint practice with the Green Bay Packers, leading into preseason game number 2 and the first home preseason game. And by the way, several people have asked, and about in the past, I have taken people's preseason tickets and forwarded them to an organization linked to the United Way of Indiana to make sure that we're getting kids, underprivileged kids, the opportunity to go to a game if you do not want to go to a preseason game. And unfortunately, because of this year, the different school scheduling and the staggering of different schools, the organization that I send them to does not have yet its roster of kids for the year. So we don't need it. I appreciate everybody that's reached out, but for this particular game, we do not need ticket donations. I know that there are some that were willing to do that, and it is always appreciated. But in terms of what the Colts are going to see here with Green Bay in town and what you want to see from the Colts, I think first and foremost, the quarterback saga, I'm sure a lot of you are tired of hearing about it. I think there was a lot of hope and expectation that they would have had that situation a clearer understanding or idea by now as to who the Colts quarterback is going to be. I personally think, I'm going to go back to what I've said a million times, and I know I said when they signed him that I anticipated that Daniel Jones was going to be the starting quarterback for the Colts in the 2025 regular season. I am on record of saying Daniel Jones, Colts quarterback, write it down. That seemed to be a fait accompli. And at some point, I'm going to give that disclaimer enough that I no longer have to give the disclaimer that I'm walking that back and doing a 180 and admitting where I was wrong. Third time in my life I've been wrong about something. I think now, and I still believe, barring an injury, it is going to be Anthony Richardson because Daniel Jones simply has not won the job. He has not done anything that blows you away. He's not been terrible by any stretch. He looks like a stable and reliable backup quarterback. But I think the Colts, when they signed him for two purposes. And they didn't know which of the two was going to be the role that was more served. Role number one was they signed him to, we want to create a competition for Anthony Richardson. And then role number two is, in creating that competition, if this guy comes in and shows some of the flash that got him a huge contract for the New York Giants, and he is able to complete passes at the completion percentage that he showed over the course of his time in New York with a better supporting cast. I think you could safely say the Colts have better receivers than the Giants. The Colts have better weapons for Daniel Jones than the Giants. And there certainly was the curiosity, the intrigue, the potential that those weapons meant that Daniel Jones was going to, hey, listen, let's put him in there, and maybe this is, in fact, a Sam Darnold situation. Maybe this is, in fact, a Kirk Cousins situation, a guy that was kind of cast off and then suddenly hit stride later in his career. And if that was the case, it was like when you do your laundry and you find the $20 in your pocket. Because originally, I think they brought him in thinking, okay, we'll get him to push Anthony Richardson, and if that doesn't work, maybe we find a lightning in a bottle with him here. And yes, that can still happen, but I would think it would have happened by now. We would have started to see points of reference by now to say that Daniel Jones is a legitimate option and starting. And the other thing that you have to look at, if you are the Colts and Chris Ballard, and this is the kind of tricky situation, but if you're Chris Ballard and you are the Colts, and you are looking at it and you're saying, okay, there are three ways this season can go. Option number one, this season goes in a direction where, because they have a good roster, do the Colts. I really think they do. A great roster, maybe not. There are areas that I think they are very strong and they have some depth. I like their offensive line. Their corners and their defensive backfield, give them credit. They strengthened that. But they are injured. But still, they have players there. They have a very good receiving core, and I think you could say they have a good running back core. So, obviously Jonathan Taylor's elite. They have the pieces to be a good team. A great team, maybe not. A good team. A great team, the difference is the quarterback, quite frankly. So if you are Chris Ballard and you're Shane Steichen and you are assessing this upcoming season, you are looking at it and you're saying, do we have a quarterback on this roster that is going to immediately make us a contender in the AFC South and potentially make noise in the AFC? And I think at this point you can look at it for this coming season and say probably not. Probably not. You have a ceiling of Geno Smith, a ceiling of Sam Darnold at quarterback for either one of those guys. And I think they're similar players, Richardson and Jones. Option 2 is, okay, can we be a steady team that contends in the AFC South, wins the division, or even finishes within a game of the division and then gets a wild card opportunity? Yeah, that probably is within the cards. The problem then is you're right back to square one, because if they go realistically 10-7, 9-8, and I think most people would say 10-7, 9-8, 8-9, somewhere in there. Most people would say that's where this team, because even if they don't get great quarterback play, their roster's good enough to put them like kind of mid-pack. But then you're right back to square one. And if you're Chris Ballard, you're saying, okay, my franchise quarterback has now had 3 seasons. We don't know what Richardson's health is going to be this year, but he's had 3 seasons to show that he is a guy that we can build around and that we push all in on. And if we don't see enough body of work from that right now, then do you have to start anew, start over, start fresh? And if that's the case, if you're Chris Ballard, are you confident that the Irsay family is going to give him the opportunity as opposed to clean house altogether? And I don't think anybody knows the answer to that. Option 3, which might be the best option if, in fact, neither of these two quarterbacks makes a big step. And I know fans don't want to hear this, and I totally understand and respect and appreciate that fans don't want to hear it, and I don't necessarily even want to say it. But option 3 is that you go into it and if you know that you don't have a long-term answer at quarterback, not only in the guy that you drafted 3 years ago, but also in the guy that you just signed for $13 million on a 1-year deal. If neither one of those guys looks like a guy that can play for you long-term and win you games and help you build towards what you want, if neither one of those guys looks like somebody that eventually is going to make you contend not only in your division but within the conference, then you got to wipe it clean and start over. And so you say, you know what? If they go 3-14, so be it. Now, I don't think you necessarily aim for that. I don't think you would. We're not sitting here going with the march for Arch because everybody in the league thinks that they're going to do that. But that's the one byproduct that can come out of it that's a positive if you are drafting high. Because if you're drafting right in the middle, you're back to square one. And that's the challenge. But there's a lot of football, a ton of it between now and then. I get it. I totally understand it. And we may not know. I want so badly for Anthony Richardson to be a player. I do. Because I'm rooting for him. Why wouldn't you root for him? He's done nothing to be unlikable by any stretch of the imagination. His story is actually pretty likable. And the immaturity that has plagued him to this point, plagued is maybe a bad word, but that has held him back a little to this point, I don't think is entirely his fault. It's just a product of almost the nature around him coming into this. But either way, I think he's going to be the guy. And when you go out in this practice and in this game, and I know that Daniel Jones now will get reps and then Anthony Richardson will get the majority of them, it kind of flip-flops. Richardson is the guy that will get the majority of reps coming up against Green Bay because you were denied that opportunity to see him and what he could do and the growth that he has on the field. I don't mean in the huddle. I don't mean in the workroom. I don't mean any of those things. But what growth he has had as a player, his mechanics, his motion, his reads, his progressions, his decision-making, all of those things. We have yet to see if, in fact, those things have progress the way you want in game situations because he got blasted and separated his, or broke, or not broke, but separated his pinky, and he had a hook finger. He had hook. That's a new term I've come up with, Eddie. Hook finger. You don't want hook finger, right? You want all your fingers going in one direction. You don't want going the opposite way.
It makes me think of like a hook, like a fishing hook.
Yeah, kind of. It wasn't really a hook, right? It was more of It was
more like a right angle.
It's a right angle finger. There's got to be a phrase for that, right? A hard right turn. I mean, whichever. Either way, not something you want to see. But the Packers are in a situation where, at quarterback, they have a guy, and it's interesting because here you have in Green Bay the backup quarterback that is clearly the backup, and Malik Willis, clearly the backup. Nobody thinks Malik Willis is a starting quarterback in the NFL. There was thought he might be when he came out. If you recall, he was one of the more intriguing quarterbacks in his draft class. There was a lot of question mark about how good he could be because of where he had played collegiately. And he goes to Tennessee originally. And some thought he was going to be handed the keys right away. And, not unlike Mayonnaise Boy, it was going to be his team, right? And then he goes to Green Bay. A year ago, he had opportunity when Jordan Love was out. He played well in those opportunities at times. I heard earlier this morning somebody who covers the Packers talking with Kevin Bowen and James Boyd and Jeff Rickard on the Fan Morning Show saying he might have saved their season because when Jordan Love was not available, especially at the beginning of the year, Malik Willis came in, played well enough, beat the Colts for that matter. But that's who they're going to see. They're going to see a lot of him, I think, coming up on Saturday, and that's not bad because you want to see if you are still trying to figure out where you are in your defensive back situation and those things and assessing and still getting acclimated with a new defensive scheme with Lou Anarumo, then what you want with that is a quarterback in the preseason that at least is going to be able to go out and give some glimpse as to what you might see in actual real game situations. And this is preseason game number one. I mean, Shedeur Sanders everybody talks about he was great. It's the preseason, though. It is not real game situation by and large. But this coming game Saturday is going to be far more so than I think what you saw in week one. But your defense, you want them to see a legit Sunday-level quarterback. And Malik Willis, while he might not be a top 30 quarterback in the NFL, he's a guy that has played on Sundays and played at times at a good level. So that is a decent test for them. Speaking of the draft, as I mentioned with Malik Willis, fantasy draft, Eddie, we got to nail down a date coming up.
Okay.
We are going to have how many people in our fantasy league?
It'll be 12 people in total.
12 people. And we are going to do this, I believe, now 12 people. Does that include the two of us?
That does include the two of us. So, yes.
And I think we need to allow Ron or one of them from Chicago's
Correct.
Pizza to also, right, to Correct. Also be involved. Hey, Jake, Hook Finger. That sounds like a brand new a James Bond movie. Yeah, it does kind of, doesn't it? But it's not a hook finger, right? It's just a go funny finger.
I thought we called it an Anthony Munoz.
Yeah, see, I do like the Anthony Munoz reference, but people got offended when I said that.
Really?
But Anthony Munoz had a pinky that does the exact same thing. His permanently, I think, and Anthony Munoz is like the nicest dude ever. Not that Anthony Richardson's not, but I guess it doesn't really hook, right? Hey, Jake, start Anthony Richardson and go with the wishbone using Warren and Jonathan Taylor. There you go. Let's throw it back to 1985. Let's go wishbone all the way, man.
Sure, Eric Moore will help out.
Let's go 88. Bring in Ricky Turner again. See if he's still on the dump truck out in Washington State and bring him in here. So, Eddie, we've got to – do we need to figure out our fantasy football date before we figure out our fantasy football league, or do we get the players first and then – do you see what I'm saying?
I feel like we should go with the date first. That way people can know if they can draft that night or not. And if not, then we don't want them in the league, right? We don't want them on auto draft. We want everyone drafting their own team.
I think that's true. Okay, let's see. It's going to be, I believe, the Greenwood location, okay? And also, Chicago's Pizza simply said this: "We're stoked to help out with this, and please tell Eddie he has no chance of winning the league again."
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
No chance. Okay. I'm excited for the competition.
So throw me a date off the top of your head right now, Eddie, that works for you for our fantasy draft.
Let me pull up my calendar. Hold on.
What sort of calendar do you have? What sort of things? Well, I guess you do have fever games, right?
Yeah, I've got fever stuff. I've got personal life events coming up. Yeah,
Okay.
and things to do. I'm a very busy man, Jake.
You're like the guy that gives out the World Series MVP truck to Madison Bumgarner. Yeah, just got all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's got features and stuff like that. My schedule has features and stuff like that.
Yeah. And, JMV is always like stuff like that with
that's right.
Larry Bird.
That's right.
August the 25th. How's that? Next Monday? Or not a week from Monday?
Monday, August 25th. Let's see here, okay? Sure. Monday, August 25th. I'm going to see right now. I've got to check my schedule, as you know. Now, I have it in here that I'm supposed to pick up a rental car on August 25th. Would that mean that I'm going somewhere on August 25th? I don't believe so, right?
Or we can do Saturday night, August 30th. I don't know what your IndyCar schedule is.
I'm gone then. Yep. August 25th sounds good to me. I'm going to see if we can do it August 25th. What do you think, 7 p.m.?
Works for me.
See, this is the beauty of live radio. We're doing it right now, and this is something that will appease for 9 people. But what we need is to get, once we have confirmation that they can host us on August 25th at 7 o'clock at the Greenwood Chicago's Pizza. Then over the course of today, if we get the confirmation early enough today, then we will begin building our league today, correct?
Yeah,
and find out the people that are going to unseat you. Now, some people might be upset because they can't call in because they're already here waiting in line for the Colts practice today that takes place with the Green Bay Packers and gets underway at 3 o'clock, right? Some people may be upset because they want to call in, but they want to listen to Kevin Bowen at 1 o'clock today, and they're saying to themselves, well, I don't know. I guess I can listen if I'm on hold, but I really want to hear what Kevin has to say. They might want to hear from Matt Taylor coming up at 2 o'clock, the voice of the Colts, who's going to join us at 2 o'clock today. And they may want to hear from the mayor of Westfield, who's going to join us at 2:30, because there's a ton going on in Westfield right now. Westfield's the place to be. I came up Meridian. I took a left. Traffic, not a problem getting in. If you are planning on coming today to Grand Park, don't worry about it. Right now, it is still pretty open, but you are going to have to take into consideration over the next couple of days, things do get busy up here because of the Live Golf Tournament. And the Live Golf Tournament, I believe today is like Pro-Am stuff, and then it really takes place in earnest. And then obviously this weekend, the Live Golf Tournament taking place here in Westfield. So this is kind of the sports epicenter of what's going on. Hey, Jake, put me in your league. Listen, people are texting me now, and you can always text the station as well at 317-239-1070. But people are personally texting me that they want in. We will have to do, in fairness to everybody, we have to do the fantasy football draft, or not the draft, but the sign-up for the league on the air for everybody to have equal opportunity over the course of today once we have confirmation as to the actual date of the draft. Eddie, did you miss me yesterday while I was in Chicago for the White Sox game?
Jake, I'll say yes just to make you feel better.
You didn't notice, did you?
It's okay. There's days where I don't miss you. There's days where I do. Yesterday was one of those.
Did you guys have fun, though, in terms of the harness racing yesterday? Because it was cool, the Governor's Cup.
Yes, I got a lot of showtime in the background yesterday.
Awesome.
And I actually went. Olivia and I went to the State Fair after we wrapped up the show yesterday. We went over there and saw some of the Governor's Cup championship races. That started at 5 yesterday, so that was a fun time.
I am doing the State Fair later today. So if we have yet to go and make our round, do our lap for the State Fair. We are going to do that later today. Something happened yesterday in the world of sports that I actually stopped. I didn't move. I thought for sure something historic was taking place. I thought for certain that the lead for today was not going to be Colts Packers. The lead for today was not going to be NBA schedule release. The lead for today was not going to be Fantasy Football League for Query and Company and building it. The lead for today was not going to be Live Golf in Westfield. I thought for certain the lead was going to be something happening in the world of sports that was going to resonate nationwide but be epicentered within this program. And it was oh so close. I'll tell you what that is. And Kevin Bowen in 35 minutes live from Grand Park is where we are today for Colts training camp. Colts and Packers joint practice getting underway 3 o'clock today. It's Query and Company here on The Fan. So we will, over the course of today, see whether or not we certainly, I would think by tomorrow, fill up our fantasy football league. That's one of those things, admittedly, that I get a little bit hesitant on, and I'll tell you why, because the old joke that goes into it, that nobody cares about your fantasy team. And there is part of me that certainly understands and respects that doing a listener fantasy league, while fun for those that are in it, the rest of the listener audience is like, yeah, I don't care, right? So the 9 that we're going to get, I could see them enjoying it and everybody else being like, wait, what? But we need to get those. Now, having said that, it is one of those things that until we have the 9, there seems to be certainly a high number of people that are interested in doing that. High number of people that are interested in the Colts and Packers. 3 o'clock joint practice today here at Grand Park in Westfield. They are already lined up, for that matter, at the gates waiting for them to open up.
How's it feel out there, Jake? Does it feel hot?
Well, listen, I was out here in the opening week of Colts camp when at one point I looked over and Lucifer was fanning himself, if that gives you an idea what the temperature was like. I was literally the Martian. I was Matt Damon in The Martian because I was here for 2 of the days when practice was done at 11, and we went on the air at 12. And there's a rooster that lives here, and he was wondering why I was here, but it was very, very warm. It's not that bad today because we are inside of a tent, and while the tent is open on both sides, there is a very slight breeze. It is not as warm. It's pleasant. It was not as warm as it was the first week of camp, although it is expected to be warm again later today. Now, a couple of years ago, if you remember, I went to a White Sox game. I think it was the first year that we were doing the show when it was a record heat wave in Chicago. It literally was, I think, over 100 degrees on the day that I went to a White Sox game. I go to 1 game per year to the White Sox. I'm not necessarily a White Sox fan, but it is, and I love that park. I may be I don't know. You folks let me know. If you've been to, I think it's now called Guaranteed Rate Field. I mean, it's undergone a lot of different names. But I think it's a really good park because it's really convenient. Especially because it's not hard to park when there's only 8,000 people going. That's what happens when you're like 45 and 117. But the stadium itself, the concourse is very convenient to walk all the way around. They have some kind of cool things, interactive things to do. They have several gift shops. Oddly enough, yesterday, the huge Chicago White Sox, like the Chicago Dogs stand, was closed. No hot dogs. They had one concession stand selling hot dogs. The rest of it, like their specialty hot dogs, not available yesterday. Odd. But we go to the game. I sit in the same place every year. I bought tickets this year on the day that they went on sale. Dave Revson mocked me for it. It was not necessarily the smartest business decision I've ever made because I paid full price on Ticketmaster through the White Sox. And the problem with that is twofold. Number one, I paid full price for White Sox tickets. And then number two, if you bought anything from a Major League Baseball team, that is, in terms of an email, that is a vortex you can't get out of. I mean, that is literally the gift that keeps on giving. If you go to, I don't care whether you're talking Reds, Cubs, Cardinals, White Sox, Tigers, Brewers, any team. If you go to MLB.com and you buy tickets on an official team site and you put in your email, forget about it. I mean, absolutely forget about it. The only good thing that comes out of that is if I'm ever actually, in some way, shape, or form, abducted and dropped off into a remote, deserted island a la Tom Hanks in Castaway, and nobody ever knows where in the world I am for the rest of my life. The one good thing is I'll still feel connected somehow to the outside world because the Chicago White Sox website will still find me to send me emails. I've unsubscribed. I've blocked. I've asked to be removed from the list. It's unbelievable how they continue to send emails to me. But, it's cool, whatever. So I go to the game yesterday. 2.5 hours door to door, basically. Maybe 2:40 by the time you park and walk in and sit down. Day game, that's fun. Major League Baseball. They're playing the Detroit Tigers. Tigers having a good year. White Sox a better year, but it still is, they've gone from being the point guard to now like the power forward on the Lollipop Guild baseball team, or basketball team, excuse me. But having said that, sit down and we're watching the game, and I don't want to say anything. Now, Shannon, I've said this to her before, I didn't want to say anything. And if you're at a baseball game and this happens, you're watching something and you're like, I'm not going to say a word. But Troy Melton is a young rookie pitcher I believe he's a rookie for the Detroit Tigers. Eddie, you are a baseball fan. Are you familiar with Troy Melton?
Not overly familiar with him, no.
Okay. Young player, I believe. And I'm pretty sure he's a rookie.
Yeah, that was his fifth career start yesterday.
Yeah, I was going to say his fifth outing. He came in 4-0. So he goes out there and fairly quickly through the – matter of fact, we walked around for a minute. By the time we sat down, it was like the top of the second. So he went quickly through the bottom of the first, quickly through the bottom of the second, pretty quickly through the bottom of the third. And I don't want to say anything, but I'm like, okay. Finally, I say to Shannon, I'm not going to say anything, but we can't move seats potentially. If we want to go get something to drink or walk around, we probably need to do it now, because if this continues into like the seventh inning, we can't move. She's like, what are you talking about? I said, we can't move. And then she says, wait a minute, I figured it out. I figured it out. This guy has a no-hitter going. And I said, he doesn't just have a no-hitter going. He has a perfect game going. He had a perfect game, I think, into the fifth. Now, Eddie, if you go to a Major League Baseball game, how far into it does a pitcher have to get before the perfect game even enters into your radar of paying attention to what may happen?
We got to get through 5 innings, so it's got to be the start of the sixth for me to start even discussing that.
But not discussing it, but just where you notice it, where you look over and you're like, oh, gosh. Sixth is the sixth the first time you would notice it, or the first time that you would really, like, accelerate it?
That would be probably the start of the acceleration, because you're getting to the bottom part of the order for the second time, and the top half will be up in seventh.
So he gives up a double in the fifth with, I think, 2 outs. So he was 4 2/3, so he was halfway home. He gives up a double, and then he only gave up 1 hit. White Sox only got 2 hits in the game. White Sox lose 1-0. And Shannon's like, this game's kind of slow. Well, yeah, that's what happens when it's scoreless. It actually went fast, but it's slow in terms of the action itself. In terms of our baseball bet, Eddie, we did this at the beginning of the year. You got 2 teams, I got 2 teams, and listener Chad is his name, correct?
Yeah, he got 2 teams as well.
Chad got to pick 2 teams. Highest win total amongst the 2 teams that you've picked wins the bet. Eddie, you went with the Toronto Blue Jays and the Florida Miami Marlins, correct?
I did indeed.
Okay. And by the way, I don't know what's going on here at Grand Park, but Phelan, our engineer, just came back with a cart, and he has, sitting on the cart, 32 pounds of ice. Now, should I be concerned with what's going on here? Is there a body somewhere nearby? He literally just came, he left with the engineering cart and just came back with 32 pounds of ice.
Maybe he's setting you up for an ice bath.
I guess, man. Well, I'd be okay with that. Okay, but Eddie has put on ice our baseball competition because Eddie went with the Blue Jays and as well the other team that he picked, the Marlins. You are sitting at 128 total wins right now, Eddie Garrison.
Let's go.
Chad went with the Reds, not terrible, and the Rockies, terrible. He is sitting right now at 96 total wins. I went with my heart, not my head in this. I went with my White Sox. I say my White Sox. I did buy a T-shirt and a hat yesterday. And the first team I ever played for in baseball was the White Sox. So a little bit of sentimentality there. I went with the White Sox and the A's. I am sitting at 98. Eddie is 30 wins to the good.
You think I could go the rest of the year not counting the wins and still be on top between the two of you?
Yes, I think so. I think you're pretty safe at this point.
Okay.
But the Blue Jays are good, man. Blue Jays are good. Like, break up the Jays. They're good. They've got good pitching. They're playing well. And you saw what happened yesterday with the Brewers. And, yes, with the Packers in town, I'm curious if the Packers' attendance in the practice today is going to be impacted by what we're waiting to have pay off in the city of Milwaukee. Cheeseheads, the folks from Milwaukee coming down to see Malik Willis, to see this practice, to watch their Pack go. We know that the Packers have a huge fan base. There are going to be people here in Grand Park at Westfield at 3 o'clock today for the Colts and the Packers. They're going to be watching their beloved Pack take on the Colts on Saturday. It is Saturday at Lucas Oil Stadium, right? I always forget with preseason Saturday or Sunday. But nonetheless, getting set for preseason game number 2. But is the attendance going to be impacted by something happening in Milwaukee? And I'm not talking about any sort of a weird rainstorm that they had. We'll get into that, and we'll tell you what to look for this practice when we come back. And Kevin Bowen joins us 18 minutes from now, live from Grand Park, training camp for the Colts here on The Fan. 5 bags of it. I don't know what's going on here, but Phelan, our engineer, just brought in, I double-checked, it's actually 42 pounds of ice. I don't know if there was something nefarious that took place. I'm not sure what's going on there. But it's somewhat appreciated because I had a beverage and I put it in there. So I guess that's good. He's got a big cooler that he brought in, but the cooler is actually 6 feet wide, or 6 feet long and 3 feet wide. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. But Colts and Packers, 3 o'clock practice today. A lot to look for from the Colts standpoint. The clear storyline continues to be at the quarterbacking position. But what will we see in terms of the defensive backfield? What could we see in terms of the running back position and who might round out their roster in that spot? The receiver position you feel pretty good about. And I'm curious to see, for example, does A.D. Mitchell continue at the level that we have seen from him? The Packers, will bring down a lot of fans. I don't know about necessarily for this practice, although they may, because, I'm curious. Would Colts fans, for example, if the Colts had, like when the Colts went to Baltimore and did their joint practice, if they had done that but it was in Green Bay, are there Colts fans that would have driven to, made say a long weekend out of it and driven to Green Bay to go see the Colts practicing against the Packers in Green Bay at the Packers facility? And I think the Packers we know travel. Not only do the Packers travel, but they are a national fan base brand. So one would assume that there might be fans that are here that live in the Indianapolis area that are actually Packer fans. And this is their chance to come see the team, and they'll put on the big cheese head and the whole deal. I mean, I think there will be some Packer representation. But those fans that live in Milwaukee, and yes, the Packers used to play a number of home games in Milwaukee County Stadium before they then went to a totality of schedule in Green Bay. But still, if you go to Milwaukee, it is a Packers town. If you live in Milwaukee, you might have hesitation of getting down here to see the Packers play because of the fact that you want to be there for a historic event in Milwaukee. Now, Eddie, I'll put you on the spot. Did you happen to see the historic event taking place in Milwaukee that I don't think has yet to pay off, but seemingly is going to here within the week?
I have not. I don't know what you're referencing here.
There is a restaurant in Milwaukee, and I apologize I don't have the name of it in front of me, but it's a burger joint. There's a burger joint in Milwaukee that does each and every year, and apparently in the beginning, the magic number was 17. But they had a promotion. I'm going back to when a lot of people don't know this, but the Milwaukee Brewers franchise was obviously you had the Milwaukee Braves. They left and went to Atlanta. Before they left for Atlanta, this burger place in Milwaukee came out with a promotion and said, if the Braves win 17 straight games, free burgers for everybody in Milwaukee. And the Braves only had, a matter of fact, I take that back. I don't think the Milwaukee Braves ever had a 17-game win streak in the time this promotion took place. So the Braves up and left and went to Atlanta. Then the Seattle Pilots, after 1 year in existence, moved to Milwaukee and became the Brewers. So this burger place says, you know what? Back on, baby. Burger specials. And I think they changed the number from 17 to 13, much to the delight of Mark Boyle. So when they changed it to 13, there was one time where the Brewers had a 13-game win streak. May have been in the 82 season when they went to the World Series. I'm not certain. And everybody got free burgers. They've changed the number now to 12. And the Brewers just got a 12-game win streak. And as a result, everybody in the city of Milwaukee gets a free burger from this place. The last time this happened, and I think the only other time it happened, they gave out 170,000 burgers. So if you're in Milwaukee, I mean, that's historic. What place in Indianapolis, if they said they were giving out free stuff, if the Pacers, for example, do a 20-game win streak, we'll just say 12. Pacers win 12 in a row. What restaurant in Indianapolis could give away their product and people would stick around and avoid going to go see the Colts practice in Green Bay, for example, if this were reversed, because they want to be there for the historic giveaway of this restaurant's goods? I mean, Long's Donuts. If everybody got a free
Yeah.
Long's donut, would you stick around?
It would need to be you would need a free dozen, right? If they win 12 straight, not just a donut.
I mean, man, yeah, you're right. But man, that's cash only, of course. Jamaican patties. I mean, I can tell you that anybody that went to my high school from 1988 to 1992, Jamaica patties, I mean, that's the deal, and I think it's still the case for people on the north side. Free patties, I'd stick around.
George
Free patties,
Webb.
I'd definitely stick around.
George Webb is the place you were talking about.
What a tangled web they weave, because now all of a sudden they got to come up with 170,000 burgers or thereabout. And that's the other thing. What's the qualification? Do you have to prove on your license your zip code? How do they know whether you got a burger already? You just keep going. I mean, when Roslyn Bakery, before they closed, they came back. They had a bit of a PR problem, and they came back several years ago. And when they came back, they said, "We're giving if you show up at Roslyn, you get like 4 free cookies." Well, I'm not going to lie to you. I took the day, had a map of every Roslyn Bakery in the area, and just drove around and loaded up. I was like failing with the ice. 40 pounds of cookies. Maybe that's what did him in. I'm not certain. Kevin Bowen going to join us. Coming up, we will discuss what things are of note with this Colts practice. They previewed it this morning from the Green Bay side of things, and what Green Bay, who did not play well. The Packers did not play well in preseason game number 1. It's one preseason game, I realize. But they did not play well. What is Green Bay looking to do that could be a challenge for the Colts? What things are the Colts looking to do that could challenge Green Bay? What players may we see today that we haven't of late, or what players have we seen of late that we may not see today? Did I say that the same way twice? Either way, Kevin Bowen going to join us other side. We're at Grand Park up in Westfield. Colts Packers, 3 o'clock today. Game number 2 of the preseason coming up Saturday. Preview next with Kevin. Heat will be on at Grand Park in Westfield, certainly from a temperature standpoint, although it's a gorgeous day. Good day to be out in Westfield, going to be packed in the world of sports here over the next couple of days. Colts Packers joint practice today, 3 o'clock, and then the Live Golf outing taking place this weekend as well. Right now at Colts camp, there are a couple of guys throwing the football around in the fan zone. Eddie, when's the last time you threw a football? Like threw a pass, a true pass of a football?
A couple of weeks ago, probably.
How far do you think you can throw a ball in the air right now?
30, 40, maybe, yards.
You could. One of the things that it's funny, I haven't thrown a football forever, and the other day I never realized that I have some sort of a rotator cuff issue until I picked up a football and was trying to throw it and was like, what in the world? I mean, I literally, it was brutal, absolutely brutal. Kevin Bowen joins us now. Of course, you hear him on the Fan Morning Show with James Boyd and Jeff Rickard. Kevin, if we went out right now in the backyard and threw a football around, how far do you think you could throw it?
37 yards.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, maybe it was downwind, 41.
Okay, what about when you were 18? Also 37 yards, or do you think it's gone down?
No. Gone down. Everything else seemingly has gone down in my mediocre athletic profile. It's a miracle I haven't shrunk yet. So, yeah.
Just wait.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would have been much more than that. Yeah.
Just wait. What? Like I said, I had a physical recently, and they listed me under 6'4", and I'm like, no, I've been 6'4" my whole life. No, not anymore. So that process has begun.
Yeah, that makes me a little nervous because I'm 6'3". I'm 6'3" on the driver's license. I'm 6'3" at the doctor. I mean, it's legit, and you definitely have an inch on me. So if you're shrinking, then I feel like I'm not far behind.
You might be passing me. You may be in the left lane on me. I don't know. All right, let's get to this. They just opened up. It looks like the gates just opened. Fans are arriving. First three that I see are wearing green and yellow. Packers are here 3 o'clock against the Colts for a joint practice and then preseason game number 2. So you talked this morning, Kevin, from the Green Bay side of things, and I am curious. The advantage in this joint practice with Green Bay will be what? Because Green Bay can kind of bring what look that will challenge the Colts, and therefore this is going to be a good workout for them.
Well, unfortunately, Green Bay's really banged up. So, the Jordan Love, they're pretty deep at wide out. They might not have a stud or two, but, that is obviously going to be impacted today. So that's a little bit of a bummer. I would, I guess, go to their trenches, O-line and D-line. I felt like in week 2 when these teams met last year, the Colts just got whipped up front. So I'd probably go there. Malik Willis, he did enough in week 2. It's not like he lit you up, but he sounds like has struggled in camp and threw a couple picks the other day. So, Green Bay, obviously there's urgency here in Indianapolis, kind of goes without saying, but they got smoked in their preseason opener, and that was against the Jets, and they played their starters. So, yeah, I'd probably say O-line and D-line would be where I would point to. Defensively, they're also missing their top safety, Xavier McKinney. So, yeah, I'd probably go there. And defensively as a whole, Green Bay did a great job, last year against Anthony Richardson and company in that Week 2 matchup. So, that's probably the side of the ball where, they aren't as banged up as a little bit in the secondary, but not as banged up as they are at quarterback and wideout.
Kevin, let me tell you the one thing that – and I want you to talk me off this ledge, okay? I have to remind myself that this is still preseason and that it is still training camp. But based on the fact that now training camp is about to shift away from Grand Park, back to the Colts complex, then it feels like there should be a turn of the corner in some areas. And I think the Colts have a good roster. I really do. Credit to Chris Ballard. There are areas where I think they have some depth, and I think they have some good pieces. I don't know how many great pieces they have. But I'm worried now that there's just enough body of work to see and say to yourself, they're stuck in that vat of mediocrity. And I don't know how you get out of that unless you're going to draft, 1 through 5. They're not that bad, but they're not good enough at this point to still be a legitimate deep playoff contender. and it feels like 10-7, 9-8, 8-9 is the inevitability based on what we've seen to this point. Talk me off that ledge.
No, I don't think I really can. Now, I guess if you want me to spin it in a positive direction for you, those win totals you threw out there in the AFC South, that can actually do something.
Fair.
They might not win the division, but, if you beat the right teams, that can get you in the wild card. And by right teams, I mean, do you have the tiebreaker? And that's why I will continue to beat this drum pretty hard over the next 3 or 4 weeks. I just think Miami and Denver right out of the gate are massive because those are the teams that I think will be in your vicinity in that wild card range there. And, 10-7, I'd have to look it up, but I'd say more often than not, since we've expanded to, 7 playoff teams in each conference, I would think that is enough to get you in. Sometimes tiebreakers might need to be on your side. So, that's the beauty, I think, of this division. Again, it's not like, Houston clinched it with 3 weeks to go last season. And it's not like they were the 1 seed and they were running away with the entire conference. It's not like they were the Cleveland Cavaliers this year in the NBA. They just clinched it because the rest of the division was so bad. So, that's what, again, honestly, it adds to the frustration. I said this earlier today. You haven't won the division in 10 years, and it's not like Mahomes or Allen or Lamar Jackson or Manning or Brady or any of these quarterbacks have been in the AFC South. It's been a very – obviously C.J. Stroud is looking like a nice player, but before that, Ryan Tannehill was winning multiple division titles. Brock Osweiler won a division title. Blake Bortles, I think, won a division title. I mean, you say some of those names, and it makes you want to puke up your lunch.
Puke up. Did you say puke off your lunch or puke up your lunch?
I hope I said up, but, I don't know. I guess off probably offers the same sort of vivid imagery there. Yeah, puke up was what I was going for there.
All right, fair enough. No, there's no question about it. And I've said before, Kevin, the AFC South is the junk drawer of divisions, right? I mean, it's the one that you just kind of look at it and you're like, oh, yeah, I forgot that they were around. And yet, every franchise has won the division twice since the last time Indianapolis was able to say that they were division champions, and that's troubling for certain. So there is work to be done there. Again, I think there are some shines to this roster, though. So let's focus on the positive for right now. At this point through camp, the areas that you look at and you say, okay, if I had to predict it, the 2025 Colts highlight video is going to feature the strong play at what position?
Position of strength. I don't know if there's one that I say is easily above the rest, but I think you can definitely point to some individuals. Certainly Jonathan Taylor. I think Tyler Warren is going to have a very active season, a very involved season in a variety of ways. DeForest Buckner has looked like his normal self. I think Latu's had moments against quality starting tackles and Braden Smith mainly that you really, really like that. He would be a guy that I'll be watching today. Again, does that translate when you're playing against different competition there? And Green Bay's got some pretty good tackles. So, I'll probably point there. Certainly in the secondary, assuming health is there, I think all the veterans, Travarius Ward, Cam Bynum, and Kenny Moore, I'd point to all 3 of those guys as definitely having some strong moments within camp. Wideout-wise, I think it's a group that's probably more of by number, strength in numbers than it is maybe overall atop the depth chart. But those are some that stand out to me.
Tyler Warren clearly has made plays, Kevin, and immediately you can see, okay, there's a reason that he not only was drafted by the Colts where he was, but why Penn State was able to use him in so many different areas. Have the Colts given glimpse at all as to what ways they could use Tyler Warren, or are they for right now strictly getting him acclimated as an over-the-middle, tight end, receiving tight end, and that's it? Or are they going to shift him around to different areas offensively?
Oh, no, they're going to shift him around, and they'd be foolish not to. I think they were part of the massive intrigue they had with Warren was what Penn State did with him. And, I think back to me as a psycho Notre Dame fan in the Orange Bowl, honestly my thrill level when I noticed Penn State wasn't giving Tyler Warren the ball on an individual play. And again, it didn't matter how it was. It could be as a Wildcat quarterback. And I think you've already seen, if you go back to Thursday night in that preseason opener, he had 3 catches, I guess a fourth that was called back. All 4 were different ways. And I thought to myself after the game, wow, he had 4 catches and 4 targets, and I can already think off the top of my head at Grand Park 3 or 4 other different routes, different ways they've got him the ball that we didn't even see against Baltimore. So, yeah, I think he's a very intriguing chess piece, and I think Shane Steichen will be very open to utilizing that, pretty quickly.
Kevin Bowen is our guest. You hear him in the mornings, of course, on the Fan Morning Show with Jeff Rickard and James Boyd. Colts getting set 3 o'clock today, joint practice with the Green Bay Packers. Kevin will have all of the coverage on that, of course, at 107.5, thefan.com, as well as tomorrow morning. Kevin, from an injury and health standpoint, any progression or anything that we're looking for of those coming back? And specifically, I'm talking about at cornerback, notably, because that's the area where it looks like Indy's the most dinged.
Yeah, I don't get, great vibes that, all of a sudden we'll see Kenny Moore and Jalen Jones and Juju Brents out there today, for example. Shane Steichen hasn't offered up any timelines or timetables, but, those would certainly be atop the list. Nick Cross has missed about a week. I think he got hurt in the joint practice last week with Baltimore with a groin injury. He has been out there, but not participating. Hunter Wooler has gotten those reps. Kwity Paye has missed a similar time frame. He actually played in the preseason game just for a series with a hip injury. And Alec Pierce, he got hurt. I think it was either Saturday or Sunday's practice with a groin injury. We haven't seen him. So offensively, they are about as healthy as you could ask for minus Pierce. They're, unless I'm missing somebody, I think they got 10 of their 11 starters healthy, and really that's been the case for the bulk of camp. Defensively has been where they're more in the banged-up category. Jalen Carlisle, the guy that I think many thought would be the starting linebacker next to Zaire Franklin in week 1. He has, I think, lost the grip on that starting job, and he also has missed the last week with an ankle injury. So I would throw him into that boat as well.
It almost feels like, to be honest with you, that, Carlisle is one that we, in terms of the media or those that cover the Colts, talked a lot about Jalen Carlisle going into the year. And a lot of that is because, Kevin, they talked a lot about him, in particular a year ago. Am I correct in saying that is a player that Chris Ballard, as much as any, if you had to make like a pie chart or a spreadsheet on the number of times that a player was talked up versus the number of times that they showed flashes on the field, Carlisle, and I'm not saying he's a bad player, but they have been outwardly very high on him for the last couple of years, have they not?
Yeah, so they drafted him, 5th-round pick out of Missouri. He was a college safety, and they thought turn him into linebacker. I would say they have been definitely high on him. I think it's part of the reason why they were so content in letting E.J. Speed walk in free agency, and really they did nothing else. They didn't draft a linebacker, and then they, outside of Joe Bocci, who has primarily been a special teamer in his career, definitely lately, they haven't really done anything at linebacker throughout the offseason. So, I think that's fair. But, Jake, I think we also have to remind ourselves you almost need to start labeling people as, and this goes for any business, you label people for who made the hire and now who's making the hires and the fires. And Gus Bradley was part of that regime. Richard Smith, the linebackers coach, who, kind of carved out what it looked like for Carlisle. He is no longer here. So it's different position coach, different coordinator. It's the same GM, but defensively, there will be guys that we'll probably have to label at some point. Are they Bradley guys or are they Anarumo guys? And the Bradley guys are going to have to prove themselves, to a new defensive coordinator.
One of the things, Kevin Bowen, our guest, you and I talked about this when we were together in the mornings. And I'm too critical here, but it seemed to me like there was a time, 3 or 4 years ago, where Chris Ballard was building the Colts in a way, I'm not going to say that was antiquated, but that was a more old school roster approach or scheme approach than what the rest of the league was doing, and that now they've kind of come back a little bit. In other words, the 3 yards in a cloud of dust, they were never there per se, but just in terms of wide open space guys, it felt like they were slow to that party. Have they gone directly in a way to kind of get back more to the way the rest of the league plays, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I mean, he's always been enamored with athletic traits, but I think positional value is not something he would agree with, and maybe over time he started to realize that he, needs to be agreeing with that. But, just think back, his first ever pick was a safety, if you want to go back all the way to the league hooker. You draft a guard 6 overall, you draft a linebacker round 2, you draft a guard in another guard in round 2. I guess I'd have to go back draft by draft. Bobby Okereke obviously was taking high, fine players, but again, positional value matters. And now I think you've seen, the Richardson draft, for example, I think quarterback, cornerback, and wideout, I believe, were the first 3 selections. So, I think that is one that, kind of plays into it of, you finally have seen a little bit more of there are some positions that do carry more weight than others in this league. And there's others that you would rank high and he's just flat out missed. Defensive end and corner would probably be the 2 that come to mind the most of, when he has drafted those, selections high, they just largely haven't worked out. So it's probably a little bit of both, I guess, to kind of summarize it all. Yes, I think positional value has not been one that he holds in as high regard as others. Maybe he's come around a little bit on that, but even in the years when he didn't necessarily hold positions in super high regard, when he has taken those, high-end drafts, not a lot of them have been hits.
Kevin, this is a big week or week and a half for let's say 2 or 3 players that maybe did not think they would be in this position, but either because they are trying to cement what has been a very good camp for them that has put them in a spot you didn't anticipate, or because they have yet to really flip a switch and the time is now?
Well, I mean, outside of quarterback, I don't think either's really taking it. I think it's kind of been a quiet camp for Michael Pittman Jr. Maybe that's not where you're going with the question, but coming back from the back injuries, had, probably a few too many drops, and I don't know. It just hasn't had as normal of a camp as I would go to. Unfortunately, I think Danny Pinter was hurt a little bit by injury, but that center battle never really feel like got to be, real. Defensively, maybe a little bit more from Kwity Paye. I think he had a moment or two early in camp, and again, I know the injury's taken him off the field for the last few days, but you'd like to see more. I definitely throw in Carlisle, who we talked about earlier. A lot of people, I think, internally would have written him in as a starter before the beginning of camp, and now he's not that. And so he would probably be in that mix as well. Those are probably the ones that kind of stand out to me.
The offensive line, I would think also this is going to be a good opportunity for them because Green Bay, Eddie pointed this out. I think it's a good point. Green Bay does have, even though they have been dinged up, they do present some fairly aggressive looks and some fairly active movement on the defensive line that I think is going to be a challenge for that offensive line. And I like the group that they have, Kevin, but would you agree this is going to be a decent test for them?
Yeah, definitely. I kind of go back to that Week 2 matchup where I thought they really kind of won the line of scrimmage and were able to, control the game from that aspect to it. I mean, Josh Jacobs ran all over you, and I thought they did a nice job against you on the other side of the ball. Jeff Hafley was their defensive coordinator, came over from Boston College last year. So, yeah, I think that's a fair statement. I think anytime you get into these, trench practices, I brought up Latu earlier, how much of him winning right now is he's found a little bit of chink in the armor of Braden Smith, and he just keeps on going back to that. I think it's just important when you see the same guy every single day, particularly in the matchups that can be one-on-one, how much of it is, again, just, wow, I simply know when this guy's weak, and boom, I can attack him there. So, yeah, I think those are and really today's the day because, again, Green Bay will not play their starters coming up on Saturday.
Kevin, obviously 3 o'clock, everything gets underway here between the Colts and the Packers. The gates are already open. Fans have arrived. What time does the Kevin Bowen photo and autograph session begin?
Well, unfortunately, I don't think that's ever taken place. The only thing I do up there is pick up animal poop, which you've seen, firsthand. That I thought was.
Did we determine what animal that was? What was that?
Yeah.
You thought it was grass clippings, and we determined. I believe we thought it was coyote dung, right?
Well, honestly, and I don't think this type of dung would look like the shape of the animal that we're going to describe, but that damn rooster's so loud, it's got to have something inside its body that it's got to get rid of. So maybe it was the old rooster there that was crowing. So yes, I will probably be arriving closer to 3 o'clock. There's an NFL referee meeting at 2 o'clock. The new rules for this year that I'll be attending at a local hotel where we work out of before that.
What? You're an NFL referee and you need to be in this meeting? Is that what this is? Or they just are allowing you the privy to see what the new rules are?
Yeah. Each year they go to, obviously the training camp. I believe there will be NFL refs at training camp today. Sometimes they're collegiate refs, so they're making their stop, and I think it's a nice thing to do. They, sometimes show whatever, 5-10 minute video of these are the emphasis on rules this year, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not the most entertaining thing, but, when one of those plays shows up in a Colts game this year, at least you have a little bit of education.
All right, very well. Well, we look forward to it. Enjoy the meeting, and then I'm assuming that you will, if there are any, major things that, even though I realize they're just explaining these rules, but that's one of the things you can put up on the website. I know you'll have coverage as well of what happens between the Colts and the Packers, not only at 1075thefan.com, but then tomorrow you'll be discussing it with Jeff and James as well. Appreciate it, Kevin.
Yep, thank you, Jake.
All right, Kevin Bowen joining us. Speaking, by the way, going from the bookends here from the morning to the afternoon, JMV is here early, which is impressive, and I think is wearing the green polo cologne. It smells like the green polo cologne. Is that right?
It is not.
It's not. He corrected me. He's trying to figure out, as I am, why our equipment is sweating here. There's water pouring off the table.
Normally, water and electricity don't.
He points out that water and electricity don't mix well. I would agree with that. But our electric cables here are suddenly sweating, and so I don't know if that'll short things out or not.
Are you by yourself? Did you set all this up?
What's that?
Are you by yourself?
Well, not now. You're here. So JMV obviously will be broadcasting here as well. 3 o'clock today. It is the Colts and the Packers, and if you are curious, there are plenty of already Green Bay fans that are here. This is kind of the fun of the joint practice session because it's an easy drive for Packer fans, but this is clearly a national brand in terms of the Green Bay Packers, and so there are probably hold on, John just JV found a bag of ice. I told you, Phelan went and bought 40 pounds of ice. He left one sitting right next to the equipment in 95-degree heat, which is a good idea. But Packer fans, look, it's a national brand, Green Bay, and so as a result of that, there are plenty of Packer fans. I've seen already, here's a guy walking in with a Jordan Love jersey and a Colts hat. You get a little of that, right? Your NFC and AFC team. But we will not see Jordan Love. We will see probably and presumably plenty of Malik Willis. And we will see, and again, presumably and probably, because we know that we're going to see a lot more of Anthony Richardson coming up on Saturday. Even though Daniel Jones will get the start, Richardson will get a lot of the reps and a lot of the snaps that he was not able to get due to the injury that took place in preseason game number 1. And you want to see the same things out of Richardson. I think with Richardson, it's year 3. And admittedly, you kind of wish you weren't still having these discussions in year 3. But that's not necessarily the fault of Richardson. The injuries that have hurt him have prohibited you from getting consistent looks as to what it is he can do. And there are glimpses. There are, without question, things that have been intriguing and at times been enticing. But at the same time, it is just very hard to figure out that footing. And you want to see still just the layups. That's what you want to see, is just the layups. And speaking of Anthony Richardson, somebody pointed out to me yesterday something that they thought I was wrong and perhaps too critical in an offering I had, in an observation I had about Anthony Richardson. And I thought about it, and I thought, you know what? That's probably fair. It's probably fair of something that I'd said about Richardson that is a little too harsh. But then when you really step back and take a look at it from outside of a vacuum and in a bigger picture, it's not necessarily harsh, but just maybe a harsh, quote, reality. I'll explain what I'm talking about, and we will continue to potentially set up the Query and Company Fantasy Football Draft, which I know is right up JMV's alley as well. When we come back to Grand Park, Colts Packers, 3 o'clock today, joint practice, and we will continue the discussion. I'll let you know what that was about Anthony Richardson next. Run down the dream of a season where they get more clarity at their quarterback position. That begins the next step in it in terms of just getting a look at another defense. The Green Bay Packers are here. 3 o'clock, everything gets underway at Grant Park. And fans are already starting to work their way, and media, for that matter, also arriving here for this. I was talking about Anthony Richardson last week, and this is a fair critique someone made to me, of me, and what we discussed. Richardson in that game, in preseason game number 1, you folks don't need me to tell you what happened to Anthony Richardson with the sack and the injury. And afterwards, when Richardson said, I need to mind my P's and Q's better, that was a play that, I wasn't totally dialed into what was happening. He basically, and I'm paraphrasing, admitted to either a non-recognition of the look that was coming and the formation that should have tipped him off that from the right side the heat was on its way, or just the dismissal of that. And, whether that's because he thought athletically he could get out of that, or that he didn't think that that particular play was a threat to what he wanted to run, whatever it may be. He afterwards admitted that that was on him for not seeing that coming. And what I said was, the thing to me that is the most frustrating about that is, because of the fact that he was immediately knocked out of that game, he was unavailable for repetition because of lack of recognition. And it was his own admission of the lack of recognition, not me, that was the culprit. He came right out and said, I didn't recognize what was there, and I need to be better at that. And what I was saying was, and what I still believe, is that Anthony Richardson in that situation not only needs to be better prepared in terms of the recognition of the defense and the formation that those, and this is, I'll repeat what I said earlier. It is true. I have never played quarterback in the National Football League. It's true that I've never played quarterback in high school or college. I obviously, like most, I've been around sports for a long time, and I did play football. I never played quarterback. However, those that do play the position and have played it very well, and those that have played the position even at an average level but have played it at the top, when I say average level, I mean in terms of their production, but played it at the top level like the NFL, to a man, virtually every one of them came out and said, this is a formation and a look that was presented that he should have recognized immediately. That is like football 101. And when he came out and said, I've got to be better at that, I was saying that one of the areas of naivete that I wish he would have improved upon was, for example, a year ago when he had the helmet tap out and then came out, and when he was asked about it, he was brutally honest about it and said, you know what, I was tired. I'm not going to lie to you. And he caught a ton of grief for that. And by coming out and basically openly admitting to the fact that he was blown up on a play because he didn't recognize it, shows, again, a naivete just in terms of the honesty of it, of, look, you can't expose to everyone your own weakness and shortcoming there. And that's what I was saying, is that is not a football play or a football observation, but it's a maturation observation and a handling of situation that he erred in his honesty of that, of admitting his own fault. And I still believe that, in the fact that I'm not sitting here saying, look, I'd rather the guy lie, but not everything needs to be that honest. And I know that that's really nitpicking. And somebody pointed out to me, which is a fair observation, someone pointed out to me, look, this is the problem. If he would have come right out and not said anything, then you would be absolutely blasting him and critiquing him for, not even being aware of what the problem was, because he admitted the problem, because he admitted where he erred, because he admitted that he was aware of the shortcoming. That is a sign of growth. That's a fair statement and critique of me. It is probably true that in this situation there's a little bit of damned if he did and damned if he didn't. That's fair. That is totally fair. The only thing I would say to that, and the frustration that I have, and the thing that is of concern to me for the Colts and for Colts fans and for Anthony Richardson and whoever, I have nothing against Anthony Richardson. There would be no reason for me to hope that Anthony Richardson doesn't develop. And I know that injury is a part of what I'm about to say, but the reality is, we can sit here and critique and nuance, my critique and nuance of Anthony Richardson until the cows come home. The bottom line is, when a guy is in year number 3 as a quarterback in the National Football League, we shouldn't be having those nuances. We shouldn't be breaking down and critiquing. There should not be enough fodder for us to sit and say, look, you're being too harsh on him for not reading and recognizing something or admitting it, when in fact that shows a sign of growth, that he admits and he recognizes and knows where the problem is. Totally fair. But that problem shouldn't exist to begin with in year number 3. When you are a franchise that is drafting, and I get it, they drafted him based on the potential. But my question for you is this: how many flashes of that potential have we been able to see? It's there. I sat next to JMV a year ago or 2 years, I think it was last season at the beginning of the year. He threw one off his back foot that was like 65 yards in the air right into the breadbasket of Alec Pierce, and we both looked at each other. We're like, okay, I see it, right? But then there were far too many plays where the routine layup wasn't hit. And then it starts to feel like, anybody remember, if you were going with Pacer analogies, anybody remember Gerald Green? Gerald Green came in. He was a straight-from-high-school guy. He had played, I think, with Boston. He won a dunk contest or was in several dunk contests. And then he gets to the Pacers, and everybody's like, oh, man, this guy's exciting because he can leap out of the gym. That's the only thing he can do.
Cassius Stanley?
Cassius Stanley's another one. Only thing he can do, right? One-trick pony. And that trick is pretty awesome. It makes you jump out of your seat, and it makes you fall in love with the vision of what he could be. But you cannot rely on, you can't rely on you have to go with the norm. You can't go with the exception. You got to go with the rule. And it feels at this point like Anthony Richardson, when he makes the routine play, that is the exception, not the rule. The rule of Anthony Richardson is the inconsistency. And it has to be, are we too far into it to know whether or not that's thank you. That's the reality of who he was. That was a sneeze.
Okay. I'm just making sure you're okay.
But then comes the other side of this, and Eddie brought up, I know that my last name is Query, but Eddie brought up the query of the day. Literally brought up the query of the day. And he mentioned it to me in the break, and I said, that is the $1 million query right there, aside from myself. That's the $1 million query as it relates to not only Anthony Richardson, but Daniel Jones as well. And we will not know. This is a question that emphatically, without doubt, we're not going to know until past Labor Day. There is a burning question at the quarterback position between Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, and it's applicable to both. It's 100% applicable to both, and we won't know the answer to it. We will not know the answer to this question until the season begins, but it is a darn good query, aside from myself. And I'll tell you what it is next, and as well, Matt Taylor joins us 20 minutes from now. You are listening to Query and Company 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. impossible for me to hear this song and not immediately think of Thunder Lips, a.k.a. the late Hulk Hogan, from Rocky III. Jay Query here at Grand Park, Westfield. Colts camp is continuing. Joint practice with the Green Bay Packers getting underway at 3 o'clock today. Fans already here, and before we get to Eddie's question of the day, let me tell you the one thing that is very uncomfortable where I'm sitting right now. Not the heat. It's not bad. Phelan has set up for us a fan here. I got John here, so the cool factor is already, high with that. But I'm sitting right across from the finish line of the, I'm assuming it's not a 100-meter dash, but a 40-yard dash. So they have a 40-yard dash that you can do. Somebody just did a 7.75, for example. But I'm seeing about every third guy over the age of 30 pulling a hammy. I just saw a guy totally, and he was wearing a Jonathan Taylor, Wisconsin jersey and blue jeans, which is that right there is an interesting call to go with the blue jeans. But had decent speed, decent form. Got about 5 yards from the finish and then did the famous hammy grip. And it's a little uncomfortable just watching it. But Eddie Garrison asked me a brilliant question. And when that happens, we make note of it on the show because of the rarity. But a brilliant question from Eddie. And that is, when it comes to this quarterback competition, and I do think, matter of fact, I'll just say it right now. I don't even think it. I know it. Not because anybody's told me, not because of – I know this. I've been around it long enough, and I was wrong earlier when they signed him, and I've gone over that a lot. But I'm going to say it right now, and this is strictly off of just instinct feel and just having been around it. I know Anthony Richardson is going to start in week 1. And barring an injury – Anthony Richardson is your week 1 starter. I don't think there's any question about that at this point because Daniel Jones has not taken that away from him. It goes to the incumbent. It belongs to the incumbent. And Daniel Jones has not done anything to take that away.
And Anthony hasn't done anything to lose it, Jake, has he?
Correct. I would agree. I don't know that he's done anything to totally cement it, but yes, you are correct. He has not done anything to lose it, although, injury is something that you have to take into account. But then you ask a great question, Eddie, and I will let you repeat it. So let's just say, let me set it up for you, that week 1 against the Miami Dolphins, Anthony Richardson is your starter. And let's say that Anthony Richardson stays healthy, but he continues with his struggles. We just had a guy pull up, by the way, 15 yards shy of the finish line on the 40-yard dash. Very uncomfortable. Again, very uncomfortable.
Got to stretch.
To watch.
Got to make sure you stretch.
Well, I don't think that it wasn't a hammy issue. I think it was just strictly an endurance issue.
Oh.
Let's just say probably played right guard in his college days. Okay, so anyway, Eddie, the question you asked, if Anthony Richardson is the week 1 starter but does not in the regular season do anything to wow you, your question is what?
How long of a leash does he get? How many games do you let him start before you start trying to make that, conversation / debate? Do we go to Daniel Jones? Like, how many games would it take?
Okay. The most popular player in any city is always the backup quarterback, right? This we know. And the bigger question to me would be this, and I think in the case of Richardson, I don't know if Anthony Richardson gets the job, he immediately – by the way, what is going on here, by the way? I don't know what's going on, and I don't mean to be distracted. But Phelan is over here. I just saw today that some guy in the state of Wisconsin, I think, got pulled over for reckless driving, and his name is Michael J. Fox. And I don't know – and it wasn't the Michael J. Fox, but everybody's making 1.21 gigawatt jokes about it. And Phelan, our engineer, is over here. And I don't know what he's doing, but right now he is literally like a combination of Doc Brown and the professor from Gilligan's Island. MacGyver. What Phelan is tirelessly working. What are we putting together here, Phelan? May I ask? A hillbilly AC unit. Well, that's good because the hillbilly's up on at 3, right? I guess he's got He's got some sort of a milk crate with ice underneath it and a fan on top of it. I don't know what's going on, but I've never seen somebody working this feverishly in a long time, especially at our joint, in a long time. But at any rate, if Richardson gets the job, Eddie, I think the questions begin until he silences them. I think the questions for either one of these two, the question of should we go to the backup is going to be there from the very get-go, is it not? And then, but I do think that how long a leash do they get? Because the question mark from the fans calling for it and the reality of the franchise doing something about it are obviously two different timelines. And I do think that from an organizational standpoint, that Richardson will get a longer leash before Shane Steichen or Chris Ballard make a move than would Daniel Jones. If Jones were to be named the starter and he does not wow them within – and it's kind of a moot point at that point because I think Richardson is your week one starter. But if it had been Jones, I think Jones gets a shorter leash just because they are going to continue to be intrigued and enthralled by what exactly Anthony Richardson could be to them and for them. But I would say – from a fan and media standpoint, Richardson, the second that he takes the very first snap, is going to hear the whispers, not that he himself, but the whispers are going to be there, the conversation is going to be there of whether or not it should be Daniel Jones from the very get-go. And it's up to him to silence that. It's up to him to cement that he is the guy. And if he doesn't come out and right away show consistency to do that, then that conversation is only going to continue. That chatter is only going to continue. And that's one of the things that I've talked about when I say the old cliche of if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. Because, yes, it's important to have a quality backup, but it creates a constant drama. I mean, we've not seen this in this town for a long time because you either had a rotation of, like, the inept at quarterback, like when Peyton Manning's out for a year, but everybody knew who the quarterback was. Same with Andrew Luck. You've got to go all the way back to when you had like two quarterbacks to have none. You know, Jim Harbaugh kind of came in and took the position away, and I can never recall. I always get it confused whether it was at that time Steve Walsh or Craig Erickson that was thought to be the starter, and then Harbaugh was signed, and he came in, and, you know, Harbaugh took the position and then never relinquished it. But aside from that, you got to go back to Trudeau and George before you had two quarterbacks that seemingly both had legitimate cases to be made. But, Eddie, I think it's a great question. I just think either one of them, unless they emphatically take the position, that conversation is going to be something we're talking about for a while. And Richardson is the one that I think if he shows the most glimpse towards what his ceiling is, he has the greater ability to silence that chatter, but I think it's going to be there all year long. I mean, don't you?
I mean, it's going to be there regardless. I think the conversations will be louder if it's Daniel Jones somehow starting week one over Anthony Richardson versus the other way around, just because I feel like the fan base wants to see Anthony Richardson at this point just because of, you know, the reports coming out of camp that there's not really, like you've mentioned, Jake, that Daniel Jones hasn't really wowed anybody. It's the same old stuff. Just with the Indianapolis Colts, he's going to check it down a ton. He's going to be able to complete a high rate of passes, you know, closer to the line of scrimmage, but he's not going to really threaten.
Yeah, he's more vanilla, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a blander offense, one would assume, right?
Yeah, he's not going to push the ball down the field a ton, and the upside with Anthony Richardson, I think, is much higher than certainly the upside with Daniel Jones. You just got to now hopefully hope that Anthony Richardson can put it all together. And someone in the YouTube chat pointed out, Jake, that give Anthony Richardson a 17-game leash. Like, if you're doing that, that means you're going to embrace, you know, the bumps in the road, and he's staying healthy, and that you're going to, you know, just trying to see this out with Anthony instead of trying to win games.
They simply have to go through it at some point. If he's healthy, you've got, you know, and you want to give it a fair shake. Now, Chiefs fan Steve asked me, has Daniel Jones gotten fair opportunity? Yes, he's gotten plenty of chances in camp to jump out and wow. Matt Taylor is the voice of the Colts. He is behind us. That is also, it looks like, setting up something along with Phelan. He's MacGyver Part 2. All kinds of activity going on here. We'll talk to Matt, and we'll do it on the other side. Colts and Packers, 3 o'clock practice getting underway today. Grand Park in Westfield here. You're listening to 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. I don't know if Matt Taylor should be flattered or offended that Fat Bottom Girls is what Eddie goes with as the lead in here.
Hey, he's just calling it like he sees it, brother. Isn't that the truth?
I thought maybe you're just a Queen fan. I don't know, right?
just calling it like we see it.
Who is, if I were to, Matt Taylor is the voice of the Colts joining us here at Grand Park in Westfield. Colts Packers 3 o'clock joint practice getting underway today. Matt, if I was to grab your phone right now and go into your, whatever it is, Apple Music spot, whatever music you have on your phone, and play and ask it most frequently played, what three musical artists would most likely, what's in your algorithm that it would confess to me that you most recently most commonly listen to?
Currently or historically?
Historically.
It's a good question. Historically, it's probably Marshall Tucker Band, Tom Petty, and probably CCR.
I think, you know what, so we've had this conversation before. You're kind of an old soul when it comes to music, right? At
Definitely.
least in terms of are you, let me ask you this, do you have siblings?
Yeah, one older brother.
Okay, how much older?
He is 4 grade levels
okay
older.
See, I think I'm like you. I'm the youngest. I have 2 older siblings, but I do think that an interesting phenomenon happens, and I promise we'll get to football here in a second with Matt Taylor.
Please don't.
But
I've talked way too much about this team.
But in all honesty, I think that an interesting thing happens when you are the youngest. I think you have a more keen pop cultural sense than like a lot of your peers because of the fact that you were introduced to music and sports and things like that at a younger age, and it's easier to think back. For me, at least, I can reference things at a much younger age than can some of my friends that did not have older siblings.
Right.
Because things are being reinforced to you so much when you're younger, right?
I couldn't agree more. I very much adapted to a certain point, a certain age. I adopted my brother's personality, because I looked up to my older brother. Right. He was a role model for me and still is. But, I mean, at a certain age, especially when I was going through elementary school and middle school, I tried to act like I was him in high school and was listening to the things that he was listening to, like Guns N' Roses.
It's the best.
Yeah, right. And so, very much, kind of morphed into his personality. I also think, like, growing up, we played a lot of sports, and so my dad and my brother had to cart me, here and there to practice and games. I had to go to his games a lot, and so we would just listen to what they wanted to listen to. And it was Q95 back in the day.
Sure.
Plus, Jimmy Mad Dog Matus is a family friend of mine and a mentor. So, like, I never missed.
I mean, don't you
3 to 6 with him on the air, right?
And here's the thing: don't you now hear certain songs that immediately put you back in the backseat of your parents' car,
100%.
Like barely being able to look out the window on your way to your brother's 7th grade baseball game or basketball game or whatever, right? I mean, totally the same thing. In addition to that, now here's another weird Jake Queryism, okay? I would bet you that if you were to, and you'd have to ask your parents this, but I would bet you that you probably began walking at a later age than did your friends that have no siblings or are the oldest, and I'll bet you began reading at a younger age than them. And that's because when you're the youngest, you get picked up and carried everywhere.
Yep.
But you have older siblings, and in my case it was 2, not 1, but that are reading you books and showing you scorecards and things like that at a younger age. So you pick that up earlier, but the maneuver 5 minutes there, right?
That's rightfully so.
Listen,
rightfully so.
They should send me to Marconi on the way, right? That's the best radio we've ever done. Matt Taylor's the voice of the Colts. We're at Grand Park up in Westfield, and I don't know how long people had lost us there, but you had joked off the top that you've talked so much about this football team. So let's begin by talking about the Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
And I know you haven't gotten probably a lot of chance to get into them yet, but when you do look at it, one of the things, if you're Shane Steichen, that you're pleased about in having the Packers be the team that the Colts have to scrimmage and then play in a preseason game is the fact that they will give a look that is good for Indianapolis. In what way?
Well, they were really good last year. They were 11-5, and they were the only team in the NFL to be top 5 on offense and defense. And they played in a really incredible division. 3 teams in the NFC North that all made the playoffs. Of course, you had the Lions and Vikings that went down to the last game of the season, I think it was. Both teams won 14 games. But they're really banged up, just like the Colts in some key areas. Wide receiver-wise, I don't know about Romeo Doubs playing today. I don't know about Jaden Reed playing today. Dontavian Wicks is on Christian Watson is on PUP. Dontavian Wicks is banged up. They had to sign a wide receiver yesterday. But they still have, from a philosophy standpoint, just an old school mentality. Matt LaFleur is a great coach. You go back to week 2 last year when these two teams played in the regular season. They didn't have Jordan Love. Everybody knew the Colts were going to see a heavy dose of the run game with Josh Jacobs, and they still couldn't stop it. Jacobs ran for 151 yards. As a team, they ran for over 200 yards in the first half alone. They had 53 rushing attempts for the game.
Matt Jacobs he's a great back, right?
100%.
That said, was there something also in the trenches that Green Bay was able to, whether it be the scheme that they did with their offensive line or just the size of their line, that hampered the Colts? That is an area that you feel like the Colts have improved upon, or is it still a question mark?
Well, if you go back, the week 2 game specifically, they did a lot of misdirection stuff. They got on the edges very effectively, especially in the first half. They did some misdirection. It's a good point about the offensive line. I don't mean, if I had the answer, the Colts would have been able to figure that out sooner in the game than they did. But that's the reality of what happened. Jacobs and their other running backs, Emmanuel Wilson, they did a nice job of getting on the edges and getting outside the numbers very easily in the first half of that game. But the offensive line's very good. That, I think, that unit for the Packers coming into this joint practice, I think, is pretty well intact as far as injuries are concerned. Defensively, they're banged up too. Nate Hobbs, their corner's banged up. Xavier McKinney's banged up. Quay Walker, their starting linebacker, may not play today, may not play on Saturday. But I still think there's a whole lot of value and some lessons you can get out of this joint practice. Lou Anarumo the other day talked about, we're not going to game plan for the Packers. We're not going to put anything exotic in. We just want to see, especially in the secondary now that that's banged up, guys like Jonathan Edwards and Alex Johnson. Just want to see him play, right? You're here in camp. You're invited to this camp for a reason. Flash your traits. Play football, right? If you're a defensive lineman, get off blocks, set edges, maintain leverage. If you're a guy in the back end, you have to play with good coverage instincts and principles. Stick to your fundamentals there. So I still think there's some good value that the guys on the back end of the roster and guys that are going to play because of injuries can get out of the next couple of days.
We talked about this. Matt Taylor's the voice of the Colts joining us here. Colts-Packers, 3 o'clock practice today at Grand Park. I talked about this last week, and I want your thought on it. It's a 2-part question, and part 1 would be this. If you look at the corner position, and you just mentioned, Jonathan Edwards, Johnson, guys that maybe weren't even household names in this circle 2 months ago, that now are right there in the mix, and a lot of that is because of attrition, okay, and the fact that there has been injury. If they were to, if one of those guys makes the roster because of the fact that others are dinged up, does that potentially take a spot that from somebody elsewhere? In other words, did they become the bid stealer on Selection Sunday?
Well, I think it depends on the injuries to guys that are at that position that those guys would make the team over initially, right? I mean,
well, that's what I'm saying. If it's Jalen Jones, let's say Jalen Jones, Juju Brents.
I mean, if Jalen Jones starts on PUP, that changes everything versus starting the season active, but he's still banged up.
2 weeks or something.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Right. So, yeah, I think you and I talked about this about a month ago or so going into training camp. The bid stealing position on the team that could, in my opinion, be affected the most is tight end.
That's what I was going to ask. Is the second half of that would be where that comes at the cost of who?
Because I think, Mo Alley Cox and Tyler Warren are securely on this team. I think Drew Ogletree. Actually, I think Will Mallory is probably more secure on this team than Drew Ogletree is, because you do have a blocking tight end in Mo Alley Cox. And I think Mallory, to a degree, it's splitting hairs, but if you ask me, in my opinion, he's probably outplayed Ogletree a little bit, at least in the pass catching.
Who's the more hybrid tight end between Ogletree and Mallory?
Probably Mallory. Yeah, that's what I mean. I think Mo Alley Cox and Ogletree's skill set, when you boil it down, maybe is a little bit redundant. But I still think you would like to keep 4 tight ends, ideally. But if you have to go heavy at corner because of injuries, maybe a guy misses a week or two with Jones or Juju Brents, then I think that might be the one position that you might look at and say, we can get by with 3 tight ends initially at the beginning of the season. Or hell, maybe you even say we get by with 9 offensive linemen or 9 defensive linemen instead of 10 in the trenches. So I don't know. It's a really good question, and I think only 2 guys have the answer to that right now. Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard.
Here's a really dumb question, Matt. In your time doing this, do you see players that – I know that maybe a tiebreaker situation goes to the guy that is the better special teams player, if that makes sense. But how many players on a roster do you think are ever kept specifically with special teams in mind? Like, we're keeping that guy for special teams and special teams only, versus if there's a guy that's a darn good, really good special teams performer, but that's kind of all they do, does he make the roster over a guy that is a fringe at his position but can play special teams as well?
It's a good question. For the Colts, they haven't had too many Matthew Slaters.
Right.
You know what I mean? Technically he's a wide receiver, but he played it over a decade in New England and caught less than 5 passes.
Right,
you know what I mean? Grant Stewart
Grant Stewart's a good one.
But even then, Grant Stewart had to play linebacker.
You got to go back to Clifton Crosby was on the roster.
Even Grant Stewart last year had a game where he had 18 or 19 tackles.
Right.
And they trusted him to play linebacker in a pinch, which he did. Maybe Jamie Silva. Remember that name? The long hair for the Colts.
Grant Stewart had long hair too, didn't he?
He did. Yeah. Ashton Dulin he gives you tremendous special teams value, but he's also a damn good wide receiver.
Really nice piece for your receiver, right?
If Dulin's your 5th or 6th wide receiver, you could be doing way worse.
Correct. You're right. You're right.
So that's a good question. Not many guys, you would pigeonhole, just say, hey, you're going to play 25 snaps a day and they're all going to be on special teams, because you just never know.
Do you ever before you call a game, do you ever actually call your counterpart or your contemporary, your colleague for the other franchise, like the Green Bay play-by-play guy?
Wayne Larrivee.
So Wayne Larrivee, legendary name, right? So do you ever match wits with those guys the week leading up to a game? Like, hey, what sort of things should I be looking for? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a pretty standard routine to at the very least go in the other team's booth. Either they seek me out or I seek them out, whichever one happens first. But we'll go in there and just kind of catch up and talk shop.
Big time you love saying
names. No, I really haven't. You ever
big time anybody?
Me?
Yeah, come on.
There's nobody for me to big time, brother. Even oh shoot, I'm forgetting his name right now. Legendary. Gosh, why can't I think of his name? Jake. Raiders. Brent Musburger. Even he was great. He did the Raiders a couple years ago.
He did the Raiders?
Yeah, he did.
I know he's in Vegas.
Yeah, did a couple years. He's not anymore, but even he was great. So, yeah.
He's not great anymore, or he's not doing the Raiders
He's not doing the Raiders anymore.
But he's still great.
He's still great.
Yeah. He is legendary.
Yeah. So, you knock on his door and spend 5-10 minutes just going through the depth chart and say, hey, this guy's hurt, or
right, that's what I mean,
may not play.
Hey, look out, they might be trying
100%.
to do this
or in practice, they put this package in. I don't know what they're going to do out of it, but, you don't give away secrets or anything like that, but if they have any questions about pronunciations or playing time, that's what it's there for. And you just kind of catch up on life and talk about the stadium or talk about something weird that happened in the game 2 weeks ago. It's like a little fraternity.
Speaking, by the way, of pronunciations and things like that, I'm hoping that this guy makes the roster just because I like doing my voice impersonating the character that I think he is.
Are you doing Ulysses?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, Ulysses. Ulysses Bentley IV. He's got a polo tea time tomorrow at 9. Is he going to make the roster? Please tell me yes.
He's got a chance to make the practice squad.
I know. He's played well, right?
I mean, he was the leading rusher last week in Baltimore. Every time he's out here in practice at Grand Park, I mean, he rushes his tail off.
And you know how hard it is to rush in wingtip shoes? You know what I mean?
You would know.
Yeah.
Very, very difficult.
I mean, the three-piece suit that he's got on, the whole deal, right? The ascot.
But I think Giddens and Tyler Goodson,
they've got some depth there.
I think they've got some depth. You know, I mean, Giddens is a draft pick, and then Goodson's been with this team now for 4 years. So.
And Goodson's one that I liken Tyler Goodson at the running back position kind of to what you were talking about, and you correct me if I'm way off base here. I'll trust your opinion over mine on this. But he strikes me as kind of a running back version of a Will Mallory, and by that I mean that Goodson is a guy that can you can put in different responsibilities if need be, and he can fill a couple. Maybe not give you a 10 at any blocking or running or receiving back, but he's a solid 6.
Yeah,
right?
he's a really good change of pace back. He's probably the best pass catching back the Colts have. You haven't really seen Giddens do enough of that at this level. It's kind of an incomplete there. Not that he can't do it, but I mean that's why. I mean I think I don't know if people want to hear this or not, but you go back 2 years ago in that fourth down. Week 18 when you're in game against the Texans, that's why Goodson was in the game. He's a good pass-catching back.
Right.
He's probably, again, this is just my opinion, he's probably a better pass-catching back than Jonathan Taylor. Everybody's freaking out, like, why is Taylor not in the game in that moment? And I get it. I totally understand it. But for that play, I think the Colts had Tyler Goodson as a better option.
I guess the one thing that hurts you, and I get it, but the problem with, and this isn't why that play was not converted, but the challenge that you get is when you put a Tyler Goodson in that situation, Matt, it's pretty obvious to anybody that scouted them that if he's on the field, it's for one reason and one reason only, and therefore it's pretty easy to scout out what they're going to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was an RPO play, and we can go back and forth on this. Mike Chappell and I have debated this now for 2 straight years every time we see each other. Like, is it a drop or a bad throw? And if you go back and watch that play, Jonathan Grenard, a defensive end for the Texans, gets in the passing lane of Gardner Minshew, and he has to throw it kind of sidearm.
Right.
So, to me, it's both. Like, could the throw have been better? Yeah. If you ask Tyler Goodson, should he have caught it? Yeah. And he's owned it and has been incredibly professional about it. It sucks for him that one play is what the play that everyone's going to remember as far as not making the playoffs and not winning the division and all that stuff because it was the last play of the game. But I still think he gives. I mean, he's an explosive runner now. Tyler Goodson is an explosive runner. He's probably not going to see more than 5 to 7 carries a game, if that. But he does give you good depth behind Jonathan Taylor, who doesn't have to. Hopefully within this offense with a better consistent quarterback, doesn't have to carry the ball 21 times per game, which he did last year, and that was the highest workload in the NFL.
Matt Taylor is the voice of the Colts joining us here at Grand Park in Westfield. Colts camp getting underway, resuming, if you will, when it comes to practice, this time with the Green Bay Packers here with them. That is preseason game number 2 as well. Center position, would you say that has kind of settled itself out?
It's trending towards Tanner Bortolini because of his availability, and that's a harsh reality. But in this league, you want to put your best 5 guys out there going into the regular season, and Bortolini's been healthier than Danny Pinter, and plus, they drafted him where they did last year for a reason, to give him a legitimate shot at this, and so he's played well. And he talked the other day about how there's so much more on a center's plate in the NFL compared to college football. Not saying college football is easy or simple, but up here it's just a completely different animal. A lot is on your shoulders pre-snap, identifying things, shifting protection one way or the other. So I think Bortolini has a really good handle on that now, certainly more so now than he did at this point last year as a rookie. So, yeah, it's trending where I would not be shocked at all if he's your starting center.
Do you think it's difficult to have, Matt, if you were to have, and this is not the case with the Colts, okay, but if you were to have a very clear alpha veteran quarterback, okay, so I mean, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, whatever you want to say, right? In that situation, do you think that is then harder for a younger center? Because at the center position, you're kind of serving as, it's like catcher, where you're overseeing things and how many times you see Jeff Saturday looking over his shoulder or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
And to gain the respect and trust of that quarterback to follow through or piggyback off of what the center is saying, do you think that's difficult for a young center if they have a domineering quarterback?
I don't know. It's a good question. Probably. I mean, there's probably a level of, like let's say there's 4 weeks of training camp. There's probably a week and a half of feeling out like how much do I trust this guy initially,
or vice versa. Like, how comfortable am I telling this guy what to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, hey Mahomes, we should break. Seriously, I've played in 4 Super Bowls already. You know what I mean?
Right.
Take it easy, pal. So I think you have to.
It's like you with Casey Vallier, right?
Oh no, Casey runs the show, bro. Let's not get it twisted.
Okay.
I'm there to just ride shotgun.
Fair enough.
He's the producer. But I think it's probably fair. There's probably some feeling out of how much does this guy really know? How much do I trust him? How much can I sort of take his word for it if we have to change and audible the protection quickly on the fly at the line of scrimmage? So, but I think he's there. I mean, Daniel Jones has been in the NFL now for 6 years, right? So he's a veteran in terms of playing. He's got 70 starts under his belt, right? So he doesn't have the the postseason success.
But the quarterback competition between Richardson and Jones, and I personally think that's kind of settled itself out because I don't think Daniel Jones has done anything to snatch it away. And in that case, you go to the incumbent, but we'll see on that, okay? But from what you can see, Matt, and be honest, when you have two guys that everybody knew from the get-go are competing against one another, but you also have one that could benefit from the experience level of the other, how much interaction have you seen between the two of them in terms of a cohesiveness or learning between the two?
I think a lot. I mean, I think it's inevitable. You can't be out here and you can't have as much time on task on the field in the meeting rooms and not have that. I mean, you can, like hypothetically, Daniel Jones could have come in here and said, I've started 70 games. This guy started 15. My numbers are what they are. His numbers are what they are. Why am I – you brought me in here in free agency for a reason. Why am I competing with this guy, right? But I think you're seeing a great deal of growth. I think you're seeing a great deal of maturity from Anthony, trying to learn from Daniel. You're seeing the continued professionalism from Daniel, helping out Anthony Richardson and being encouraging of him. And you're sort of seeing it play out, Jake, where I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but when one guy has a really good day, the other one does too. And when the other guy's a little off, so is the other one.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I still think you and I have talked about this a lot. The lack of availability of Anthony Richardson combined with his production or lack thereof on the field has forced the Colts' hand into this situation. And I don't think the Colts care. I really don't think they care. They will take Anthony Richardson reaching his potential, continuing to reach that ceiling that they had for him when they drafted him 4th overall, or they'll take career resurgence out of Daniel Jones a la Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold in Minnesota. Whichever one they they will take because it's more consistent quarterback play.
I'm saying.
They desperately need it.
And in addition to that, though, Matt, the thing at this point, if you aren't certain which of the two of them is going to have the most consistency, then I think you defer to the one that you think gives you the bigger ceiling. And in that case, it's Richardson, in my opinion.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, perhaps. I mean, listen, you're exactly right. You hopefully what you can do is take the two things that last year or the first 2 years Anthony Richardson did really well, and that's run the football and throw the deep ball, and you couple that with his entire offseason's focus of completing the layups and getting more completions in the middle of the field, working in tight ends more, completions between the numbers, 15 to 20 yards down the field. If you get that, then yeah, I think you really have something, because if he can make the plays that 99% of the quarterbacks can make, along with making the plays that 99% of the other quarterbacks can't make, just like that Pierce 65-yard bomb in week 1 last year, then I think you really got something. But, we're a long way from fully knowing exactly how much Anthony Richardson can put it together this year, and or if he'll start week 1 against the Dolphins.
I think our best conversation in this whole thing was when we were off the air, right?
I agree.
That's
typically how it goes.
Like, do you want to come by later? We'll just record that again.
Yeah, we'll talk about CCR hits from 1969 at Woodstock, or we can talk about Spartansburg, South Carolina with Marshall Tucker. Whatever you want to do, brother.
Look at you, man.
Yeah.
Do you know what school's in Spartanburg, South Carolina?
What else is cool about that
No.
place?
Do you know what school is there?
Oh.
What college? What?
Is that South Carolina State?
Boy, I'm not. That might be in Spartanburg.
I'm just guessing.
Darius Leonard. That's his school, right? There is a Division I basketball, not football, an occasional NCAA tournament team.
See, I'm not very good at this.
They're the Terriers.
Yeah, I'm not very good at this.
That'd be Wofford.
Yeah, no idea.
Spartanburg, South Carolina.
No idea.
Huge BMW plant there, by the way. Spartanburg. That's why now it's harder to get hotel rooms in Clemson. Just so you know.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I forgot about the Clemson connection.
Lastly, before we let you go, Matt Taylor, our guest, voice of the Colts. You are looking for what in terms of this practice and in preseason game number 2, and not including quarterback? But you're looking for just more footing or better understanding where?
Well, I want to see specifically the guys that are kicking ass so far in training camp. I want to see him continue to kick ass against another team.
And that'd be who?
I want to see Laiatu Latu continue to kick ass against another jersey. I want to see Adonai Mitchell continue to dominate somebody else and get open and, show that flair.
He did that in the open practice against the Ravens. Did you like what he did in the game?
Yeah, hell yeah. Absolutely.
Because he was what? He had 2 or 3 catches, 6 targets, right?
Yep. Tyler Warren, same thing. Dominate the middle of the field, get him involved in screens, get him involved in drags, between the numbers. He had 3 catches or 3 targets, 3 catches, 40 yards. So I want to see more of that. I want to see Jonathan Taylor rip off a couple of big runs. I want to see the stars show out. And there's rumors going around that the Packers aren't going to play their starters on Saturday. The Colts will for a quarter. The Colts have to dominate that first quarter.
And the Packers,
they have to.
They just got dominated by the Jets.
Right? I looked it up, Jake. The Packers had 188 yards of offense, 1 touchdown, and they didn't reach the red zone against the Jets in the preseason.
I don't know if you know this or not, and this is a new thing that they're trying to do. The NFL is the 800-pound gorilla, right? But we know, and you're not a soccer guy, are you?
No.
Nor am I. But young people love soccer. And so the NFL, it's not the NFL's job to chase what other people are doing, but they're always innovative. And my understanding is that they say now, if you lose twice to the Packers, you get relegated. Did you know? Or to the Jets, you get relegated. So the Packers might get relegated just to keep up with.
They got to go down to what, right? AAA or the XFL or what? What's the equivalent?
What is it? The UFL this week? What? Like
I don't know.
They've tried everything, right?
I don't watch football in the spring.
I was a Florida Tuskers fan or Taskers or something for like a week, and then it went away.
Yeah.
And
you would know better than I.
There was the American Football League for a while. I was a Birmingham Stallions fan, and they're
CFL
moving, and they're going to see it now. CFL, Hamilton Tigers, I'm all in.
Yeah.
We went IndyCar a couple years ago. We went to the Toronto race, and we decided to go to a CFL game, and we went to the Hamilton Tigers, and so I was going to go and be contrarian and root for the Calgary Stampeders.
Yeah.
Buy a hat, just really be a
like Elaine in Seinfeld, the Orioles hat.
Exactly, that's exactly right. So we went there, and there was one other kid that was there as a heel, and to use your term, got his ass kicked. And so I just said, okay, that's fine. And so I'm a fan.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring too much color to this show.
Then I found out the Hamilton Tiger Cats, they're the goons. They're like that's the goon.
Oh, is that
team.
their persona?
Yeah, it's like Liverpool. So I'm all right. I got a hat and everything now. Yeah.
Now you know.
All right, Matt Taylor, we've kept you way too long. I appreciate it, man.
All good, brother.
Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts. Eddie, when we come back, we have some breaking news in regards to this particular show and the listeners thereof, all 11 of them. They'll be thrilled. We come back. We are at Colts Camp Grand Park up in Westfield, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. We are at Grand Park in Westfield for Colts training camp. The Green Bay Packers are here. There's a guy walking by in his – I'd like to know if you sweat when you're wearing the cheese head. Because, you know, in Green Bay, anything over 40, they start sweating. And they're not used to that, right? This is a busy weekend in Westfield. And, by the way, speaking of busy, Eddie, you will be busy on Monday, the 25th of August at 7 p.m. Because this breaking news, the Query and Company Fantasy Football Draft will take place at the Chicago's Pizza in Greenwood on the 25th at 7 p.m. So plenty of awesome pizza, and then we will, over the course of tomorrow and then after that, begin filling out the league itself. We know that Eddie Garrison will be in it, and we will get listeners to join and accompany us and then come up to Chicago's in Greenwood for our draft, which we look forward to. We also look forward this weekend to a very busy time in Westfield, as a matter of fact. Matt Deck is with the mayor's office in Westfield. Matt, you are the director of facilities and events, and that means that you are quite the busy guy, because it goes without saying that this is a big event for Westfield, always has been. But then Live Golf also at Chatham Hills, which is just about 1.5 miles directly north, kind of due northeast of here, if I'm not mistaken. But, man, it's a pretty exciting time in Westfield, Indiana.
Jake, it may be the most exciting weekend we've had in Westfield in years. And, to conclude Colts camp with 13 practices that didn't include any rain, we're very grateful for that. And
Matt.
No, we're good, Jake. We're good. No, Jake, it's 2:36. We only have about 2 hours and 24 minutes, and the skies are completely blue. And then so we end practice at 5 p.m. tonight with the Packers, and then we start right into the Live Golf Tournament tomorrow with a 12:05 shotgun tee time. Gates opening at 10 with the shuttle service starting 30 minutes before that.
Okay, let's begin with this, since you are the director of facilities and events. So the event itself, and I know that this is a big deal with the Colts, but, you know, everybody now is kind of up to speed on how things work here, because this is a seamless event now. People are accustomed to it here. Live Golf is new in Westfield here at Chatham Hills. This is a big deal because they're going to be crowning their season champion for Live. And certainly, I know, and I'll say it, I mean, Live is one that when it was first announced as a league and the players that were joining it, it was a very polarizing thing within the sports landscape, but it still is one that is a major sports league. It ended up in Westfield. How? How did this all come together?
I want to say, Jake, it was May of 2024 that Live connected with the leadership at Chatham Hills, and then they in turn connected with the mayor's office and Hamilton County Tourism, and discussions started at that point. Probably took 2-3 months of back and forth where we were able to put together an opportunity for them to select Westfield as their concluding stop for their individual championship. And I got to tell you, the Live folks and the folks that helped them put on this tournament have been completely blown away by the amount of effort and energy that has been put forth by not only the city of Westfield, but the folks here in Hamilton County. We absolutely, as you can see, with the success that we've had every year with Colts Camp, we're putting that same energy into this tournament, and they're already blown away. So we expect nothing but success this weekend.
40,000 will be here for that, right, in terms of the Live Golf?
That's what we're expecting. We are literally expecting a record-setting number for any Live weekend, and we are absolutely prepared for it.
Okay, so let's talk about that. For those that are coming up for this, you mentioned earlier parking. You know, it's interesting because whenever you have a golf event that's taking place at a private club like that, it's not like going to a Colts game where you just pull into the, lot E or, Huckleberry Hound lot F and walk in.
Yeah.
So you are facilitating or putting this together in terms of the accommodation in what way?
So parking, we have a giant open lot right across the street from the Grand Park Event Center on the north side of 191st Street. So we feel with that being the primary option and the only option, and it just being absolutely wide open, the Par 5 group that helps Live organize this event brings in another group to handle the parking services. So folks will be taken care of. We're going to get them in and get them out efficiently, and then, as I mentioned, there is a shuttle to get them all the way up to Chatham Hills Country Club.
Is there any way to know? Matt Deck is our guest, by the way, Director of Facilities and Events for Westfield, Indiana, which is hosting not only this practice between the Packers and the Colts, but also the Live Golf Championships at Chatham Hills that takes place this weekend. Any way to know or target or ballpark the economic impact.
Jake, I knew you were going to ask me that. I
Well,
knew you were going to ask me that, and I was going
to.
to. That's a great question.
I guess a better question would be this, because I realize those numbers are probably hard to know at this point, right?
Jake, I believe I've heard the number 35 million.
Okay. Now, do we know, just in terms of maybe lodging gives you a better idea of this, the number of people between both of these that are coming from outside of market to be able to come in, and thus you have to then get hotels, restaurants, etc.
Something that we're real excited to review with our partners at Hamilton County next week after we have all the official data. But we feel that from our own estimations that we're looking, again, between $30 and $40 million of economic impact between tonight and the end of the tournament on Sunday.
You know, Grand Park in general, Matt, is, this is obviously, I think, initially was kind of the staple of Westfield. But now Westfield continues to grow and provide even more than just Grand Park itself. But what has this particular facility meant, not just, and I mean totally separate from the Colts itself, in terms of people that are coming in, and what's the long-term viability of Grand Park?
Love that question. That is absolutely right up my alley and my passion. So back in, I want to say 2012, when Mayor Cook and his team were first presented the idea of Grand Park, he mentioned to a group of folks that he felt that if we built this park, we could bring in anywhere from 200 to 300,000 people a year. Last year, 2024, Grand Park saw 5.5 million visitors.
Unbelievable.
So it absolutely blew away even the early expectations of the folks that were planning this facility. This facility was built to be an economic driver for the city via sports tourism. That's absolutely what it has done. And as Mayor Willis has taken office, that has been a priority of his. He has focused on economic development, taking advantage of the park, and taking what Mayor Cook's team had initiated in leasing the park to a private operator, taking that idea to the next level in allowing that private operator to outdo the competition that Grand Park itself has created. And a big unique element to what we will be doing here in Grand Park is the Grand Park District, which is right in the middle, right in the heart of Grand Park. We're going to be bringing in businesses, restaurants, entertainments. We're going to create an atmosphere so that when folks come here, they don't want to leave. They want to stay here and enjoy themselves.
Have you found that this is the blueprint for other Midwestern facilities like it, or is it one that actually goes on the blueprint of what you have seen elsewhere?
I feel like it's created a blueprint that many have attempted to accomplish. It's really hard to acquire 400 acres.
I was going to ask what the acreage is.
It's 400 acres. We have 34 multi-purpose fields. We have 26 baseball and softball diamonds. And again, we are looking to do more with it. But again, like I said, the idea in Grand Park created other communities to try to do the same thing. So we had to stay ahead of that. And that's one of the reasons why we're now leasing it to a private entity.
How many of the acres of the old Thunder Island?
How many?
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
the old Thunder Island? Because
it was 3Js, and then it was
Thunder Island,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That would technically be the southeast corner of Grand Park. Is that correct?
It is not on the campus property.
But doesn't it border up against it? I guess it's.
I think it's further north.
Okay.
I'm not a geography expert, but I feel like it's 30.
I went skulking through
north.
one day a couple of years ago and managed to find the remnants of the old water slides.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to try to take them home.
And was it you or someone else mentioned there was a movie shot there in the early 90s?
Shannon Doherty was in a movie.
Yes. You were the one that told me that.
That is correct.
Yes.
Shannon Doherty was in the world's worst B movie that took place. She and her friends were
right.
Their high school newspaper undercovered some nefarious political things.
That is,
and the best part about it is so they had this crooked politician that was chasing them down because they were high school kids blowing the whistle,
right?
And chases them up to the top of a water slide, and there was only one way, Matt, to get away, and that would be down the
water
slide.
Oh,
baby.
that's right.
Yeah, of course, it was awesome. Yeah.
I tried so hard to find footage of that after you mentioned it. I think there was maybe one clip of it. So.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, it is literally the most cringeworthy. It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, Matt Deck is the Director of Facilities and Events here in Westfield, Indiana. Live Golf taking place Chatham Hills this weekend. Also, of course, Colts and Packers practice getting underway 3 o'clock today. Matt, in terms of, and watch this, wait till you see what I do here.
Oh, boy.
In terms of Westfield, what's on deck moving forward to things that you're hoping to bring here?
We're really focusing on the economic development around here and utilizing Grand Park as the tool to grow that. And I'm sure you saw that Ed Carpenter Racing is kind of the foundational element of our Grand Park district, that business joining. And I know being enticing to so many other businesses that will come to the district. We are also looking at opportunities to help enhance Grand Park 12 months out of the year and not just perhaps 9. So we are looking at everything to keep this park busy all the time.
I'm telling you, if with ECR Ed Carpenter Racing here as well, you got to make sure that they're bringing you plenty of Java House, because that stuff's unbelievable.
Yes, of course.
Java House is awesome.
Absolutely.
I don't even like coffee, and now I'm hooked on the Java House Columbia coffee, the peel and pour. I just pour it right in, and it's like, it doesn't taste like coffee to me, and now I'm addicted to it, and I haven't slept in 3 weeks.
What a great plug.
That's new, isn't it?
Love to learn that.
That's a new thing.
Absolutely.
They also have energy drinks and hydration.
Of course,
so
of course.
Matt, appreciate it as always, man. A great job.
Jake, love having you up here at Westfield to close out Colts camp, and we hope to see everyone up at Chatham Hills this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Matt Deck, Director of Facilities and Events for Westfield, Indiana. JMV is here. We will do the handoff with him as the Colts and Packers are just about 15 minutes away from getting underway in Grand Park. 10 minutes from now, the Colts will be out on the practice field along with the Green Bay Packers. 10 minutes from now as well, JMV show will be underway, but he is here. John, when you hear this song, you think of what movie? Am I the only person that
It would be Below
Correct.
with Johnny Depp walking through the airport.
That is correct.
That was one badass outfit he had on, too,
Oh, that
by
was
the way.
awesome. With the little suitcase and the sunglasses.
By the way, this crosstalk brought to you by Love Heating and Air Conditioning, 353-2141 for John and Chris Love, a Heil dealer today.
The very
little
best
precursor right there.
family-owned business since 1920, John.
Yes.
So that means, and 24-hour on-call maintenance. And I've known them my whole life. They treat me like family. They will customers as well.
We just gave Joe Koppel an advertising arousal somewhere, wherever he might be.
Joe has that all the time.
He does, doesn't he?
Does he
Yes,
not?
he does, especially when I play like Ambrosia on the weekends and
I'll
stuff.
tell you what, not that you don't always, right? And thanks to Thomas and Premier Weight Loss, it's been the case for about a year now. But you look, if you don't mind me saying so, actually, you look kind of sexy.
Do I really?
Yeah, you're all dolled up. Your hair looks good. You got sunglasses on.
I'm going to ask Kenny Moore when he joins me if I look like a kind of reclaiming life, midlife crisis, 55-year-old douchebag. Because I think we need an honest opinion. Not that you're dishonest,
What
because you're not, but we've known each other for a while.
Right.
I just kind of wonder if I'm caught somewhere between hillbilly and douche.
You got to be careful, admittedly, but I think you're.
Yeah.
I mean, you got on a polo, you got on a normal. It's
Yeah.
not like you're walking around here. What would be like the worst thing to be wearing? Like if you were walking around wearing like a Steve Francis jersey or something, I'd be like, what are you doing?
So you think if I came in a jersey or something like that, you think it'd be, what if I wore like a tank top? Because I have been wearing tank tops
No, I think you're
recently.
okay. I mean, with.
Here, no, but
Listen, you've worked hard for the physical shape you're in, so I would. Why
Well,
not? Right? I get it.
the whole thing is I didn't like wearing shirts when I was really fat. So I sure as hell don't like wearing them now.
Right. Fair enough.
So yeah, I was
Now,
always somebody
okay,
that never wore a shirt.
So, Stephen Holder. Now, Holder can pull this off. He's wearing a bucket hat today.
Right on.
So I have a bucket hat on the car, and it just says Oasis 25. Cool or not cool?
Well, obviously it's still in the car, so you didn't think it was cool.
No.
Now Kevin Bowen wears kind of a Crocodile Hunter-esque bucket hat too. Does he pull that off?
Yeah, I think Kevin does because he's been doing it forever, right? So it kind of becomes this thing.
Have you noticed? I don't know if this is something that he doesn't know or does, but sometimes he's got the lid in front tipped up, and sometimes it's down.
Now he drives you crazy though because when he does videos, he doesn't look at the camera. Right? Isn't that right?
He doesn't. Why, hey, Kev, I know he's on his way in right now.
That's
Kev,
right.
man, why don't you look at the camera, dude?
Well, it's weird because when you do it, in his defense, you got to look at you forget where the camera is on the iPhone.
I think we all know that Kevin Bowen is just a little bit too in love with his own reflection. He's looking at that the entire time.
Okay, let me ask you this one since we're discussing cool, and you're defining it right now.
Yeah.
We talked about the Oasis concert a lot. I have, but my cousin got me the coolest. It is super cool. An Adidas kind of I have a pull up in a zip up.
Yeah.
That has the Oasis logo because they have a partnership with Adidas. But it says on it Oasis Live 25.
That's badass.
Now, does that mean that I only have 4 months left to wear it?
I know. I think no. You wear that forever. I mean,
so?
hell, the best thing about wearing concert tees are the real throwbacks now. I mean,
I know, but there's got to be a
those.
window between when it goes from, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like,
think you're good, man.
it's like stadiums. Stadiums have a window where they're junky, and then all of a sudden they become retro, right?
You know, it's weird. We just heard Eddie Garrison give us the 1 minute warning. It's odd not hearing break in the background. Break. Hey, Eddie, can you do that to make me feel at home? Break.
What's on the big show today? You mentioned Kenny Moore. What
Kenny
else?
Moore is going to join us. Some dude from Green Bay is going to walk in here a little bit later on. Mike Chappell's going to be here. And I probably will be yapping with a lot of people for about 2 hours because nobody's going to be around. Everybody's going to be paying attention to that.
The practice itself, right?
Yeah,
Getting
the
underway.
practice.
3 until 5 o'clock.
Hey, Jake, by the way, I am talking to the great folks at the Greenwood Rotary and Damar Services at Sycamore at Mallow Run later on tonight. So I'm going to jet down really near me, about a half mile from where I live. Damar Services, and I know we both
They do tremendous
absolutely love what they
Tremendous
do.
work.
And thank you for asking, and I'll be there after this show.
All right, so John
Yes.
is with you next, Kenny Moore. And by the way, thanks for doing that.